This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Live tonight for the virtual Five Flags Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to RaceSpot TV's coverage of the 2019 iRacing Winter Derby here on the iRacing Esports Network. Happy that you're with us, as always, alongside myself, Evan Pasoko. I'm joined by Nolan Rempel in the RaceSpot TV booth this evening. Our producer downstairs is Randy Cheneth, bringing us to you. And Nolan, we say good evening to everybody from, of course, Five Flags Speedway, home of the Snowball Derby, for one of short track's biggest iRacing official events of the season, as we get set for 300 laps of exciting action tonight.
Yes, indeed. It is definitely one of the crown jewels of short track racing events, especially here on the iRacing service. One of iRacing's few special events throughout the year. And as we start to bring the 2019 season to a close, we are no doubt going to get ready for a very intense and exciting night of racing action here at this just about under half miles short track here at Five Flags Speedway. 33 drivers about to get set to take the green flag here tonight.
Right now, they're going through a 5-minute 2-lap qualifying session, and that best lap is going to determine the starting order for this 300-lap and 150-mile contest. And as you'll see over the course of the night, this race is kind of a who's who, not just of the short track racing scene on the iRacing service, but I think really the oval track racing scene as a whole. You got names like Tyler Hudson, Raja Karuth. You even have names that are very familiar to even Comet fans like Zach Novak competing in this one. Your 2019 eNASCAR Peak Frities iRacing Series champion. All of them fighting for the win in what is the top split. There's a little bit over 100 different iRacers competing in this event, I should say, over the course of a couple of different splits. This is the top one, so these are the best of the best, Nolan, and it'll be fun to see what they can do alongside one another when they get out there trackside and get racing tight quarters here all the time in Pensacola.
Most certainly, to say the least. This race will no doubt feature a whole ton of door banging here throughout this 300-lap event. Of course, we are expecting a minimum of one stop today, though most likely we will be doing 2 stops here today in this race. About 150 laps on the fuel, but the concern is definitely going to be on the tires here today. That was Zach Novak that just pulled it off of the track after his qualifying run. Currently, you have Carson Hokevar sitting on pole position for now, and you actually have a tie for second place right behind them as well between Will Norton and Dallas Pataska.
Yeah, that goes right down to the 1/10,000th of a second. It looks like it at Norton, provisionally going to get the outside by the tiebreaker, and that 5-minute qualifying session is drawn down as we get set to go super late model racing here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Let's go trackside and take a look at tonight's RaceSpot starting grid. The fastest lap of the ball is a 15.258, and that is the 4-car of Carson Hocevar, who will start from pole position, and it is Will Norton who will join him on the outside of the front row in second position. That means that Dallas Pataska gets booted back to row 2. He'll start in third position for this one, and Connor Ozekrick in the number 4 position outside there as well. One more row back, another big short track name, Briar LaPrade. He rounds out our top 5.
And running down through 6th place, we've got Jake Matheson. And in 7th place, Raja Karuth. 8th place, we've got Sean Leisure. Within 9th place, Cale Gale. Parker Brookfield rounds off your top 10 in that number 10 spot. 11th place, we've got Jared Leoberg and Zach Novak at 12th. Connor Horn and Garrett Strachota Rounding off row number 12, row 13 with Parker Retzlaff and Ryan Kuhn.
And Jose Salas Jr. continuing on through back to row number 9. It's he and Tyler Hudson in the number 18 position. Tucker Minter 19th, and Guillaume Fortin will start from position number 20. Jake Sylvia 21st. Devin Hall 22nd with Blaine Aiken, Dalton Williamson, and John Theodore back P25. Riley Thompson's going to be 26 spot, Jared Wishin 27, and Jason K. Miller P28 to be the final driver to take a time in the qualifying session. So the rest of the drivers going to be given provisionals based on their iRating. It'll be Justin Botello 29th in Wyatt Warner through P30, Giovanni Romano 31st, Michael Seal 32nd, and Clifton Cockrell in the 33rd and final position. To look top to bottom, the Race Spot TV starting grid. Field starts the pace around this half-mile Five Flags Speedway. As mentioned, of course, tonight's race, Nolan, 300 laps, 150 miles of distance top to bottom. And the key point that you mentioned earlier was that tires going to be a lot more important than the fuel tonight, which means the amount of cautions or even lack thereof could be a determining factor in what strategy these drivers opt to go with.
Certainly going to be a very challenging thing to manage, especially if this race does run green through a very long run. It might be one of those cases where, you know, it just takes one driver to come on down before everybody else starts to follow suit. Just under half a mile now before we go green flag race for 300 laps into the night of Pensacola. And this is going to be a very interesting race. The pit strategy might come into play, but I think for now, it's going to be a bit argy-bargy up here at the front.
No exaggeration, at 33 of the best short track racers on iRacing are ready to go, and we're happy that you're with us on Race Spot TV. Let's go iRacing Winter Derby Racing from Five Flags, green flag in the air, and it is Hosvar from pole. He'll pull an advantage at a 2 for the first time. It's Norton staying second. The number 23 car as well. Oh, and contact! Oh, Zesra gets turned. He's going to hang on to it 3 wide in 4, and what a crazy opening lap as the 24 car survives.
Caution is out though immediately after that, and what happened there? That was Justin Botelho that went sideways on the front straightaway. He made a little bit of contact off of turn number 4 to bring on our first yellow of the day. We did not even make it 2 laps in before we got our first caution of the day. We said this race might have a bit of a longer green flag run. Well, it's not going to be happening early on, that's for sure.
It takes a few laps to get it worked out, and funny, with all of the contact and craziness we saw up front, you'll see right here on the replay, I think the 12 car saw everything going down in front of him and jacked up or something to hope that if they did wreck, he wouldn't have been involved, and unfortunately, he jammed on the brakes right in front of the 18 car of Giovanni Romano, so he really had no heads up that car was going to stop at the exit of the corner as he was rolling back into the throttle. Here's the onboard, and here's that shunt to the outside. Just got a little bit spooked by what was going on in front, and a relatively minor incident. Slow thing down at the start here in Five Flags Speedway. I know Hosvar would have appreciated that one running out, because with all of the excitement behind the battle for the race lead, Nolan, he had kind of checked out a little bit, but it seemed like a pretty good restart from some of the drivers inside of the top 5. Already some positions gained. The outside line did not get going that well, so Caruth and Gale, they'll all jump up a row, drivers who started on the bottom of the racetrack.
So already lots of position shuffling occurring early on. Your top 3 have still stayed stagnant throughout the start of this race. Carson Hosvar staying in first place. Will Norton staying in second. Dallas Pataska down in 3rd place. He's still staying there from where he qualified earlier today. I do not think we can discount the magnificent save, though, that Connor Okrejic had through of turn 4 and off of the corner on that first lap, because I seriously thought he was going to run back up and get into the entire field. Not easy to save these cars, especially when the tires are, of course, a little bit colder. So brilliant driving from that number 30 of the machine to make sure that that wasn't worse than it was.
And although we are still in late afternoon evening conditions, you can see the sunset tucking away down to behind turns 3 and 4. Lights still on top of the pace cars, so not going to green quite yet. Track temps aren't that warm. 77 degrees trackside, 74 is the atmospheric temp. So as that sun dips behind the grandstands and we race into the evening, it's not going to get that much colder. If we started, I think, more so middle of the afternoon, you'd have a much more noticeable change in temperature. But any change is going to, of course, affect these race cars. So we'll see how some of these drivers figure it out from the course of top to bottom. Only Jake Sylvia in the 33 car actually ends up off of the lead lap after everything that happened on the opening laps of that race. He decided to come down to the pit lane to get some extent of service, so he'll drop a lap down. Other than that, the other 32 cars are still scored on the lead lap. Lights out on top of the pace car. It'll be a Hosvar and Norton front row. Pataska, LaPrade back on row 2. As mentioned, the 22 of Raja Karuth started 7th. He'll leapfrog up to P5. We'll see how he does on this restart. Pace car's going to duck in nice and early in the corner. 4 cars get a wide open window, can control it, and he goes real soon. Green flag back in the air, 7 laps down.
Well, Carson Hosvar really not wasting any time. He's already pulled a magnificent gap over the second place pro. Dallas Pataska and Will Norton both getting shuffled back. Norton still trapped on that outside line. He's going to lose out. Second place to Pataska here. Nearly runs enough into the outside wall. A couple cars having some close brushes, but so far so good. We are still clean and green, single file after about the top 10 of your field.
He was able to squeeze that 25 machine up and out of room, so takes that spot away. So Pataska to second, Orton drops back, single file. From there on back to the 9 car to the inside. That's a challenge by Parker Brookfield. He's on the inside of Karuth. This fight for P5 and 6, and doesn't look like there's much the 22 car can do on the outside there. So give it to Brookfield, who has now picked up 5 spots in the opening 10 laps.
Gale still trying to work his way by that 22 on the inside. So close off of turn number 2. Gale's going to get that done, but Karuth trying to fight back around the outside. He's not going to have the speed, though, to get around the outside. Caution comes back out. Second yellow today. It's a pile up, a parking lot down in turn 4.
A lot of cars involved in this one. Second yellow flag the night, and I think it all started with contact with the 30 machine. That was Sean Leisure. To watch a battle go down into the corner to the 25 car side by side in the middle of this. He ends up being a part of it, but it does originate a little bit further up the road. What it looked like Hudson got into Leisure in the 30, turned him around. That was the first incident, and then but another 4 or 5 cars kind of piled into that one, unable to get through on the inside. Watch the contact right there. And when it's on quarter exit, the racetrack's blocked. There's nothing those cars behind could have done.
That was a classic late model pileup. You have a couple cars that go sideways and everybody else just kind of storms in with nowhere to go. That's a typical Five Flags type of pileup, a typical late model crash, to say the very least. On board with the bumper of Sean Leisure. There's the bump for the 10, sending them clean around and goes hard up into the outside wall. Big contact. There's a nice angle of that concrete barrier for you if you ever wanted to take a look at what it looked like up close. And my goodness, a big incident, though. Not even 20 laps in.
When a lot of those drivers seeing the view on the infield side of the concrete barrier a lot earlier than they would have wanted to. Those drivers coming in for damage repairs. Of course, none of your race leaders opting to come in for any sort of, actual importance of service this early in the race. And just to kind of break down the fuel numbers and strategy that we were talking about right off at the top, these cars can, if you really wanted to, you could probably stretch this to a one-stop race. Get right to that lap number 150 marker, and of course it depends on if we're green at that point, but that would be nice and easy. You fill it up with fuel all the way, you get your tires, you're off and away. But as talking to some of the drivers before the race, they were more concerned about the tires before they get concerned about the fuel. So if this race does get some legs, and you see some green flag racing, wouldn't be shocked if it is a two-stopper. You split it into thirds, you go lap 100, lap 200, and then go the distance. Again, though, these yellows will certainly play a big factor in what all these drivers end up doing.
It is true, and it might be worth kind of pulling something along that to keep on the lead lap. You want to stay on the lead lap, as there's one car, the 29, that might have made, I think it looks like he did make it out of time, Michael Seal, down in 32nd spot. In fact, doesn't look like he did, as a matter of fact. He is slowing down, letting the field by, so did not manage to make that pit exit for Seal. So he's going to find himself a lap down here early on, and actually might find himself 2 laps down here, so this is going to be a big hit to Seals Day as well, as not the way he wanted to start things off. And just what we're talking about, when you're a lap down here at Five Flags, it can be so difficult to try to work yourself back up there. Almost have to really rely on those lucky dogs to try to get you back up to the front.
Well, it takes a lot of time to get these cars serviced on the pit lane to maybe a part to why that 29 at Seal drops a lap down. He joins Sylvia and Hudson. His car's off of the lead lap 30 and the 33. Still on the same lap as race leader Carson Hosvar, who has gone very early on both the drop of the initial green flag and, of course, the last one where he was the control car. Let's see where he decides to put the right foot down as the pace car will dive down in the center of quarter number 3. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Green flag back in the air. He'll check out to turn 1, but big defense by Pataska to stay in second spot.
Pataska going to make sure he stays within second place. Dorton trying to hang on to third. You saw Brian LaPrade trying to look around the outside for third place. He's not going to get that done. That number 5 machine, no doubt, going to lose out to Parker Brookfield, is trying to fight past at the bottom. He's going to clear him through 1 and 2, just barely, not quite. LaPrade still on the outside. He is going to clear him down the back straightaway, though. Not as single filed out this time. Still cars double filed throughout a good portion of the field behind him. And Zach Novak pinned on the outside now of that number 1 machine, Jake Matheson, excuse me.
He's trying to take the long way around and trying to hold off that number 1 machine, Matheson, in front of him, but Matheson will clear in battle for 8th and 9th position. And the problem here now is just a big row of cars trying to get on the inside now. The 72 machine of Ryan Kuhn. He's side by side, even sticking the left side tires down onto the apron a little bit that time and one, trying to help that car rotate through the corner as they race down with the sun setting in their eyes, right up against the inside wall. But a little bit squirrely is Kuhn, and Zach Novak maybe with an opportunity to make it happen here if he can stick on the outside. You're on board with him on the outside down to turn 3.
There you can see all those little twitches in that steering wheel. These drivers really have to wrestle the cars around. Novak does lose out to Kuhn, but he is going to be able to fight off Jared Libert, who's right behind him. There's a good view of Novak on the inside of that car trying to work himself out. So I managed to slide himself in between the 3 and the 15. So that will help out Novak significantly in his charge to try to get back into the front and put the power down, get things moving early. He's still in 10th place, so he is higher up to where he started. Now on board with Connor Horn.
Horn, the next driver who finds himself the wrong side of a big train of cars on the bottom. Horn trying to hold off the 32 of Blaine Aiken for 13th and 14th position. And you can see the inside has the advantage if they can keep the back of the race car planted down on the track. It's not going to matter. Caution flag at lap number 25, and it is Dalton Williamson all the way at the back. He's one of them. You see the 27 car up against the wall as well, and that is where our contact is from. Riley Thompson. Watch this car try to tuck down in line. Can't really change lanes. Center of the quarter, 25 had committed to the bottom. Thompson, interestingly enough, Nolan, was one of those cars pinned to the outside. He kind of let the car that he was fighting with go to try to tuck in line, and unfortunately it didn't work. Watch the closing right here as they dive into the corner.
25 really shoved it in there, didn't he? And turned Riley Thompson and unfortunately completely destroyed that outside wall with the nose. So the 25 going to have a big shunt to take care of. Couple cars down a pit lane first. Jake Matheson down on the pit road from 8th spot. Right behind him, Ryan Kuhn coming down as well. Zach Novak is also among the drivers that came down.
The first time we've seen some of those top 10, top 15 drivers dip their toes in and decide to come down to the pit lane for service. Of course, you can get this car serviced as many times as you would like over the course of the race. And again, the interesting part about these super lates is, you know, if you run it completely out of fuel, you're going to be down in the pit lane for quite some time. To get that thing filled back up, you would lose at minimum 2, if not 3 laps if you were to pit for a full tank of fuel under green flag conditions. So maybe if you just keep coming in and keeping it close to full, you will never have to give up that much time at once. They do give up the track position, though, early, which is the trade-off.
So Carson Hosvar manages to maintain the lead through all of this early race carnage, now approaching the 1/10 of the mark in this race. And already we've had 3 cautions before we're 30 laps through, so this race is certainly going to be a yellow-filled one, it would seem. We might see that pace car out here getting in a decent amount of action as Hosvar continuing. He's going to... Do you think he might try to continue a strategy of pulling away early? Because, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, like you said on the last restart, Evan. It certainly seems to be working for him so far, so I certainly wouldn't take the risk to try anything different.
Yeah, I would tend to think that the more you do it, you think that the other drivers are going to catch on, and I think to a little extent Pataska did. He wasn't able to stick with Hostvar, but he was able to get a good enough restart over the cars on that second row that the 23 machine was clear when he went down and ducked into the corner to maintain second. So until those cars back on row 2 start to figure it out, I would stick to it. Again, this racetrack unique with where the pace car drops down to the pit lane. In fact, most short tracks can give you this advantage in an iRacing. On a restart, as soon as the pace car is down, you can go. And Hostvar has been unchallenged every single time this evening. So as the lights go out on top of the pace car, and we'll turn right back on to get a couple of cars at the back sorted back out, I would expect him to do the same thing. But watch Pataska, because he did a pretty good job of catching on last time. I would expect him to do the same. We'll see how aggressive maybe Will Norton is from the inside of row 2. He's the one that could, of course, cause problems for Pataska if he can stay on the bumper of Hostvar into the corner.
And Norton is going to be the main driver that Pataska is going to have to worry about, because Pataska, I don't believe, can pass Hostvar before that start-finish line, so he's definitely not going to be able to secure his lead going into turn number 1. So he's going to have to try to at least secure a second place and not get pinned down on the outside line. He's done a good job of that so far, being extra aggressive on these restarts, but Norton, he's looking to take back second place as now the lights are off on the pace car, and it seems like they are going to be staying off for the time being. As Norton continues to try to prepare himself to set him up for this restart to get that good running ease down into turn 1, and maybe get by Hostvar for the lead.
Only 31 laps in so far, 300 on the night. Let's see how this restart is handled by the 4 car. Same strategy as the green flag is back in the air. He's off and away. And again, no challenge for second by Pataska. The battle's on for third. The 9 car of Brookfield outside, and the 25 at Orton on the bottom. Side by side for third in the 4.
Norton really struggling, getting really close to that transition where it gets flat on the apron. Very easy to lose the back end of the car through there. Managing to keep it all safe and sound for now, but still side by side in the Brookfield. Almost no change in the distance to each other in terms of bumper length as they continue to fight their way through 3 and 4. Brookfield almost looks to have a little bit of an edge around the outside, certainly out of the corners, but Norton is able to have that line. And down to the inside of these corners, he throttles his way down into 1 again. And all this battle for third, it is allowing your 2 leaders, Pataska and Hostvar, to slowly begin to pull away from the rest of this field.
They're enjoying the extra space, and the 25 got squeezed out of room a little bit there, and it will be Brookfield on the outside line who wins out in that fight for third. And now under attack is Norton. It's Briar LaPrade at the bottom of the racetrack. The 19 car started to P5. He wants to work his way forward, couldn't establish positioning. It'll be single file out for just a brief moment. In fact, everybody top 10 single file to get back to a battle for about 17th, but with these cars this close off for the restart, doesn't take a lot to establish position. If you miss a quarter exit or you want to move somebody up and out of the way, you certainly can. But it is Hostvar, Pataska, Brookfield, Norton, and LaPrade, your top 5.
So the field beginning to kind of settle into a little bit of a rhythm here as the race continues to go on, starting the clock in last. This will be our longest green flag run we've had all race now. Almost sad to say is Norton going to be trying to run down Brookfield for third place. Brookfield, meanwhile, he is slowly reeling in. Pataska, at lap after lap, continue to try to close in that gap more and more. He closed in a little more this time. It went from about half a second down to 4/10. So Pataska really needs to start checking his mirrors in a few laps here if Brookfield continues to keep that foot down.
Yeah, keeping an eye on those lap times as your race leaders try to close in on one another. You're looking off for the nose of Pataska, actually off of the nose of Brookfield there in third position. Pataska, the first car up to him, and then the next car in line, your race leader, Carson Hostvar. Last time by, best lap of the group still to Brookfield in the number 3 position. He's the biggest mover right now inside of your top 9, started 10th. And obviously without pit stops, he's driven his way through the field up to third. A couple of yellows in some restarts certainly aided that effort, but he is closing in, and it looks like his race car just handling better. He's not as down low and onto the apron. I mentioned that some cars were actually dipping left side tires down onto the apron to get that car to rotate a little bit because they're experiencing some tight conditions. The 9 car really isn't forcing the issue. He's about a quarter of a lane up than the cars in front of him, and that would bode well for him if this thing stays green when you try to conserve a race car for a good length run.
Well, there's no reason to push it really hard. We've still got well over 200 laps to go, nearly 275 laps to go. As a matter of fact, Norton, though, he is going to get muscled out of line here. Briar LeBrad starting to work his way underneath him, and he's going to get that done. Up and into 4th place. Now Norton under threat by Rajat Karuth, who's going to go down the inside into 3, and it looks like Norton might lose quite a few spots here. He might have to settle and go down into 7th place after losing another spot to Cale Gale here, unless he can get that good drive off and slip himself in between the 22 and the 5.
It's some more of your notable names in this group. Raja Karuth, Cale Gale, Dewey to battle, but in fact, through all of this, the number 25 machine was able to get back up in front of Karuth, so living another day is Will Norton. Again, it's so easy when you got these cars lined up in these packs like this, where I got 5 or 6 together. Hold that thought. Caution flag back out. It's at the back of the pack. It is Garrett Strakota in the 14 machine. He's around, and the replay will show you that this one actually was on his own. I think it was awfully tight. You'll see the car get sideways. I thought he might have got finished off, but that was on his lonesome. 14 car could not hang on to it, and luckily he's the only one involved.
Garrett Strakota then just losing a little bit off of the back end, off of turn 4, going to be on board with them now. Watch that wheel. He's going to try to wrest under control. Where to start to lose it? Right off of 4th, where it started to rotate. You saw him try to work it, and just unfortunately lost it, overcorrected, and went hard to the outside wall. Just about ended his competition hopes early on in this race. He is, of course, a lap down with big damage on the front end of that car. So big troubles then for Strakota early on. Got one car going around the outside. That will be your lucky dog, Michael Seal, to be able to get around the pace car and take a lap back.
Yeah, at the point in the race now where we've had a few incidents as Strakota dives down to the pit lane, and for your race leaders, Husqvarna and company, they opt not to give up that track positioning. That battle to, I guess, amongst cars a lap down, and I think the objective of all of them really to get back to the lead lap is kind of an interesting one, because you got some race cars with a bit of speed in there. Strakota and Hudson, both cars who started top 20, tracked the lap down with some minor damage. Of course, looking to get a lucky dog to get back to the lead lap. The problem is, if you don't get the lucky dog now, we're only going to have more and more cars a lap down as this race goes on, whether it be from being involved in incidents, or if we get a green flag stretch. It's not going to take a ton of time for your race leaders to start lapping drivers, running in the 16-second range per lap here under green flag conditions. So certainly that's a good battle for those 2-3 drivers to engage in right off of the bat, because you're better to get around 3 cars than 6, 7, 8, 9, as more cars get put a lap down. So certainly those drivers have their own battles to fight for, but kind of funny how quickly your race objective can turn from, I want to try to fight through the field and get up front, to, man, I'd like to get the lucky dog next time.
Yeah, it is so easy to drop so far down the order so incredibly quickly, and Strakota showing us just how easy it is to drop so far down the order as well. It's, of course, not an easy thing to be able to work your way back up. You just really got to stick in it and make sure that you can kind of have the speed that you need to really make things work. Lights go out on the pace car. So the field gets set up once again, double file. Once again, Carson Hosvar up in first place, and at this point, I definitely would not be surprised if you saw him try to gun it early on.
If I'm a betting man, I'd say the 4 cars getting it on the throttle early. We'll find out as this restart will put 51, 300 laps behind us in the 2019 iRacing Winter Derby, and there he is. He's off and away, but what a restart for Parker Brookfield. He'll drive to the inside of Pataska. That's what the 23's been able to avoid the last few times, and he's got a fight on his hands for second.
Parker Brookfield still trying to make that work. That number 9 car has had quite a bit of speed throughout the last green flag stint, no matter how short it was. But Pataska trying to work his way around the outside, so Pataska seems to be really good for the first few laps off of the restart. He is actually managing to keep Brookfield at bay just barely as they run down to 3 and 4. Brookfield has to get out of the throttle. Might have gotten a bit of a shove there from the Pratt off of turn 4. That is allowed Pataska to get through into second place. It's another bumper from Brookfield now, who gets pushed up the track, and everybody's beginning to stack up now. Cars almost going around. This is getting really antsy now. Now Connor Horn is being almost turned down to the inside.
3 wide through the pack, but somehow we hang on, and through all of that, Pataska will maintain that number 2 spot on the racetrack with LaPrada, Brookfield, and Retzlaff now your top 5. The 1 car now, somebody driving off into the inside. That's Jake Matheson on the inside of Raja Karut. There was, enough side-by-side off of that restart compared to any others, at least 4 rows side-by-side before we saw that bit of contact kick off, and I think nothing short of a miracle that all those cars inside of the top 10 survived that.
Certainly, to say the very least, it shows just how skillful these drivers are. Looking for 3 wide in the turn 1, or trying to make it around the outside. They are not going to go 3 wide nearly, though. Horn goes around the inside, and Blaine Aitken down to the bottom now, trying to get around Horn. It's your fight for 11th now. Aitken not able to make the speed work. He is going to try to throw it on in, though, underneath that number 11 machine to turn 1, and still just does not have the speed to make that work just yet.
So he'll wait and try again, as that one, again, I think the most sporty of the restarts we've seen so far. Still the one of Matheson on the inside line for Kuhn on the outside now, squeezing up top. The advantage that you get on the outside, of course, is that you're going to carry more speed through the quarter, but you need to stay there. That nice move there by Matheson to clear by the time he got in the center takes that kind of counter punch away from the 3 as he slides up and takes the spot. So that battle for 9th and 10th position is settled with Matheson on top, and now behind them you see Connor Ozesric and number 32 machine behind him. Blaine Aiken cars pinned on the outside as it's Horn in the 11 getting squeezed out of room. 24 wins there.
Connor Okresic going to be able to win that fight out around the outside. Like I said, you can carry a lot more speed, but you got to be able to keep that speed going. Connor Horn managing to try to fend off both lanes. Aiken trying the outside now as Cale Gale tries to work his way around the bottom. Aiken, though, he's getting a good drive off of some of these corners, might be able to make that stick if he can keep that momentum going. He certainly seems to be better around the outside, it would seem. They're now side by side for Pete number 13.
And as they fight with each other, the next car in front of them is going to get further and further up the road as Ozresser continues to run away down nearly by 3/4 of a second. The 32 of Aiken does win out in this battle. Connor Horn almost all the way clear of that 23. A Cale Gale on the outside. Gale's going to fight back, though. Side by side we go. And again, Horn's attempt to pass to the inside is thwarted. A good counterbalance on the outside as Gale stays in front for the time being. More fighting, though, further up the scoring pylon, and some contact with the 6 car. Zach Novak pushing his way by Raja Karut for 7th and 8th spot. They were leaning on each other a little bit. Good enough to get the 6 car on through, and Ryan Kuhn next on deck to fight with the 22.
So Kuhn continuing to try to work underneath Caruth. Will he be able to make that work, though? That's going to be the question. Caruth seems to be good on the exit around the outside, but it looked like that number 3 machine might have taken a little bit too much out of the apron. Lost the back end off of 4, managed to hang on to that one just barely. And Kuhn continuing to try to push around, but it doesn't look like he'll be able to keep that spot. Looks like Caruth might be able to maintain that spot as they run off of turn 4 once again. Can't even finish shitty paper in between some of these cars.
And it's funny how quickly they come to go. I mean, now you got the fight here with the 22 car who will stay in front of the 3 of Kuhn, and, you're single file out. Doesn't really matter, you got a lot of space and no immediate fights. And then as soon as one car gets stuck on the outside, like the one of Jake Matheson, there's no guarantee that he'll ever find a spot back in line. And the one car got right back tucked in behind him. Looked like he went for the crossover. Not going to happen. So Ozesric stays in front of him for the time being. And the one of Matheson looks like he wanted to go for the counter, unable to do so at the moment. Now side by side, Blaine Aiken and Cale Gale fighting 13th and 14th spot. Awfully tight there as the 32 was really pinching Gale down on the inside. The 23 car rubbed him a little bit there. So these 2 drivers going at it elbows up.
23 versus the 32, mirror numbers and mirror lanes, it would seem. Aiken still trying to fight on the outside. We've seen that 32 car is very good around the middle of these corners, not so much along the bottom, so he's trying to keep that momentum going, but it looks like Yale might just be a little bit better around the inside of the corners, continuing to try to pull inch after inch of spots away from Aiken, and he's going to get the move done off of turn number 2. Now Aiken under threat from Devin Hall in the number 8 machine. They do make a little bit of contact with 3 and 4, and somehow again manage to hang on to it. Door banging is, of course, a very common factor in short track racing, and this seems that this Winter Derby is no exception.
Well, that last little bit of close call was kind of the opposite of what we saw the last time. First time through with the battle of the 23, it was kind of that 32 vacant pinching down. That last time, Devin Hall kind of pushed up on him, but it is going to work out for the 8 car as he stays in front and will take away 14th position. I know it feels like the 32 is really losing out in this. He's still 8 spots higher than where he started, so he has had a good night, but not a good restart since as the 13 tries to get to his inside. It's Jose Solis Jr. Another tight call as the 32 is trying to kind of pinch these cars and steer them into committing to the bottom line, but it's risky business when you're flirting with cars that are sitting on your quarter panel like that.
Most certainly is, and he's going to get turned now by Jose Solis Jr., and that will no doubt bring out the caution. Aiken locks it down, keeps it out of the outside wall. You were just saying that it was terrifying to have these cars, under a quarter panel. Well, there you just see the consequences of it going a little bit too far. That was a case of one driver not wanting to yield, one driver just trying to make him yield, and unfortunately, Blaine Aiken going to lose out of this one. He's going to drop all the way back to the order. So his 8 spots that have made up since the start, that has all gone away as we enter what is, I think this is going to be our 4th or 5th caution now of the night.
Well, and admittedly, it is a late dive to the inside on Solis Jr.'s point, but you see the big slide there? It was a bad quarter exit for the 32, so he knew that the inside would be open. I think if these guys had just stumbled upon each other and he makes that dive, I'd say that's a little bit of a late move, but as you said, I was literally just saying, I don't know if I'd play chicken like that with cars to the inside. That time, it doesn't work out. Your race leaders, though, down pit road, that number 4 car you see there has been your race leader all night long. Carson Husvar for service at lap number 78 for the first time tonight. Takes a long time to get these cars jacked up. You see the left-hand side of that car is up now, so it'll be a 4-tire call. He'll beat the rest of the cars that took the same strategy off of the pit road, but you did see the 11 of Connor Horn, who's first off of pit road. That was a 2-tire call only for your 13th placed qualifier.
And Carson Hosfar seems to be turning the engine off, letting it coast to the middle of the corner down the front straightaway. It's an interesting strategy, but certainly not one that, we haven't seen done before. That seems to be what Hosfar is doing. He's keeping the car turned on just enough to let it kind of roll through the corners, and then it just kind of turns it back on to keep the speed up, then disengages it again when he's trying to get back up to speed. Car's running now, but a little bit of an interesting strategy there from Hosfar to see so early on. Still got cars pulling off. Your new race leader, Wyatt Warner, back down on the pit road. Now the number 16 going to forfeit that lead, and I think that will promote the number 30. Oh, that's going to actually put Hosfar back up into first place.
A surprise, because he was just talking about how good of a pit stop that was for Connor Horn, and maybe his concern was maybe he didn't think he could get 4 tires at once without losing the lead lap because he was pitting from so much further back in the running order. So instead he goes for 2 and for 2, and with everybody else opting to take their 4 at once, Connor Horn's actually going to lose out big time in this cycle.
And you saw in that pit stop, Horn only actually lifted the car up onto the left side of the jack, showing that he only took right side tires, and he went back down and then put on left sides on that second stop under caution. Already the lights are out of the pace car, so a very quick caution here as Hosfar holding the lead. No doubt going to be able to run away with it early on. And like you said, I'm willing to bet money on it this time.
Well, let's see if these fresh tires put some life into the challenge from behind. Dallas Pataska once more to the outside of the front row, back in second position as we race in 3 and 4. The 4 cars on it. Green flag back in the air. Close it in on 1/3 distance. And the iRacing Winter Derby. Pataska down in line to second position. So the battle's going to be for 3rd. And it's Brookfield holding off the 22 via the outside.
This time on the restart, Pataska could anticipate that Hosfar was going to go early. Actually stayed side by side in a fair bit of the run down to turn number 1. Hosfar still managed to get clear, but it was much closer this time through turn 2. So Pataska knows now what the restart strategy is going to be, and he can begin to predict that a little bit more. Down though, battle for 7th place is going to be Zach Novak trying to fend off Will Norton around the outside. That number 6 car certainly looking good right now around that outside. He's going to be able to clear that spot and secure 7th for now.
Norton started this race for the outside of the front rows, so was probably planning on not having to deal with this much traffic after dropping back a little bit, but it does stay in front of Norton for that 7th and 8th position battle for the time being. And the 7 may not be in the clear. The 24 of Ozesric trying to get to the outside. This may be a side-by-side challenge, and it will be plastered on each other's doors that time at the start-finish line. The 24 just looks a little bit more stable right now as you're on the driver's side door. Let's see how tight they get down into 3 and 4.
Okrasic really trying to pinch Norton down to the bottom. Norton, like Aitken, might not have the car to make those runs around the inside work. He already lost out to Novak. He will be losing out again here to that number 24 machine that's continuing to try to fight around the outside. So it looks like maybe right up against the apron might not be a good idea for some of these cars, and that 7 car might not be no exception. Norton going to lose out on another spot now. He's going to have to look out for Ryan Kuhn, who's also trying to fend off Jared Liebert, but also trying to run down that number 7 to pick up another spot.
You see that 15 machine, as you mentioned, Liebert on the inside of the 3-0, and he almost drove it into the inside wall there. That pops up in quarter 4. He kind of had to correct the car back up, and the 1 machine of Matheson got into him, and the 15 now slowing it back straightaway, going to lose that fight to Matheson. Wonder if he just slowed down to let the 1 car go as an apology for nearly taking both out, but I mean, he's really now struggling. The 8 car of Devin Hall to the inside, so it's just going to kind of add on top of itself for Liebert. Stays in front for the moment. We'd seen cars flirt with that wall, but that may have been one of the closer calls this evening.
And no doubt it won't be the last of the close calls throughout the evening as the sun continues to set towards the horizon. Pretty soon the lights are going to start coming on overhead as we will be going racing into the night. Liebert continuing to try to fend off Hall, and Hall back end stepping out quite a bit. Cale Gale trying to run down the number 8 machine. Now, we've got a car spinning around behind them. It's the number 18 that's gone into the outside wall, and that is Giovanni Romano, who's going to lose out on a bunch of spots.
Backed it into the fence. Caution at lap number 92. And to stick with the trend, this was not unassisted, and I think you got to look back to that 29 of Michael Seal. And again with the late move, but I mean, the 29 car, he's making that move about a lane and a half up off to the bottom of the racetrack. I don't think there's any reason the 18 Romano was expecting a car to drive into the quarter panel there. I think the 29 just missed his mark. Go for the inside. Sure, watch. Tons of room on the inside. Problem is, that car never hit the bottom. Drove right into the line of the 18.
That's the thing about short track racing, especially at this place. You know, when you see a door open, you have to go for it because it is so unbelievably difficult to pass at a track like this and make it stick. You really have to. We've seen passes take several laps to complete, and there is a very famous saying, you know, if you don't go for a gap, you're not a real racing driver. Well, so many people are really taking that to heart tonight here in the Winter Derby as Hosvar continuing to hang on to that lead very impressively. So far, he has led every single lap in the first third of this race. We'll have to wait and see if he can really hang on to that past that 1/3 mark as we slowly begin to round down the laps towards the halfway point.
And of course, this race is one of, if not the final, iRacing official events of the season. And of course, one that's been circled on the calendar for short track fans on the service for a while. But if you're tuning in with us tonight on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network, and you want to take a trip around Five Flags for a couple hundred laps, there are still several more opportunities to do so this weekend. 2 sessions tomorrow on Saturday, 8 a.m. Eastern, and then as well at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then another one Sunday at 9 a.m. So 3 more opportunities for you to compete in the 2019 iRacing Winter Derby if you so desire. Again, I think we mentioned close to about 100 drivers competing this evening. This is the top of either 3 or 4 different race sessions going on now. The top split drivers, of course, being those more experienced ones on the sim. And just kind of for some housekeeping notes, as this race closes in on a 1/3 distance, Dalton Williamson has brought his car behind the wall, and so has Wyatt Warner. So 2 drivers to the garage. Their nights are done. Only Jake Sylvia remains on track while also not being on the lead lap, running in 31st.
So some drivers' nights unfortunately ending earlier than they would have liked, but that is just the nature of short track racing. It is, of course, very, very difficult to manage to finish a race, and it's just a shame that for some it had to end even before we got halfway through this 300 lap race.
So we kind of have an idea of what we're going to see at a host bar for this restart, but let's go on board with Dallas Pataska. You'll hear it from the driver's seat of the 2 car. This restart coming to take lap number 98. Flag quickly off for the restart as Hosvar rocketed out in front. You saw that. The issue is with the 12 of Justin Botello, I believe. We'll get a second look right here on the RaceBot TV replay of that machine, and he caught the end of it there. He just broke sideways. I don't know if that was a missed shift or what on the restart, but that car just got turned sideways. Gotta think that was a missed shift.
It's a bit of a weird incident, to say the very least, for Botello, who, again, a very weird spin off of the corner. There you see it just completely breaking sideways. I have never seen, something like that for a very long time. I don't know quite what to say about that, to be frank.
I mean, the good news for him is he was restarting in position 26. You do that towards the front of the field, and it's going to get ugly. So that ends up actually just being a single car spin, loops it around, doesn't hit anything, and it keeps on going. And the good news is he didn't dump the transmission on the racetrack at a 4 either, so that car is going to be able to continue through the rest of this race. But I think that just kind of compounds onto what has already been kind of a rough go for Botello, as he started back in 29th and hasn't really been able to gain much. 2 positions up from where he started, but that is with 2 cars in the garage. So he'll come down to the pit lane, and maybe tires will fix it. Who knows?
I mean, whatever works, it works. And when you don't know what to do, well, when in doubt, take tires, I guess. That's at least the strategy that Botello seems to be on. So you were riding on board with Pataska for that restart, and Hosvar, well, the Pataska still not able to find the way through. Hosvar still up in front of this race. We are now 1/3 of the way through. 101 laps are going to be complete. It will be 298 to go by the time. Well, actually, right about now, it'll be 298 laps to go as we continue to pace around under caution.
We saw the race leaders, Hosvar and company, decide to come down to the pit lane at about lap number 80, which was probably earlier than I think I was expecting. But if Hosvar was the first one to kind of indicate by looking low that he was going to pit, I think it makes sense that the rest of the race leaders came with him. And we were kind of speculating, Nolan, that it was going to be a 2-stopper. And, pit at lap 100, 200, and that would do the trick. I was surprised, though, for the cars that pitted earlier. We saw some drivers in at around lap 40 that they pitted also. So those drivers really just want to get tires and fuel and kind of add it on. So your race leaders didn't lose anything by opting not to go for that earlier. That strategy obviously working with the current green flag to caution flag ratio.
Well, if I'm doing my math correctly here, and they do decide to pit every 80 laps instead of, every 100, then we will actually be seeing a 3-stop race, because they'll be stopping again around lap 160, and then again around lap 240. So that's, of course, very rough for averages, and that, of course, can change drastically as the race goes on. But that's how things are kind of looking in my mind for now. So it is very interesting to see how strategies can adjust so far, but we could even see, a 3-stop race tonight. So we'll have to keep our eyes open for that one.
And we'll see if your race leaders want to make some changes on these restarts, or if they're going to stick to the status quo. Again, it is Hosvar in control for the inside of the front row. Dallas Pataska to the outside. We'll try this one again. You'll go on board with the 2 car. This time, the restart comes with 104 laps down, 196 still to go from Five Flags Speedway. But the Fora hosts are able to stay in front through what was the first change on a restart we saw tonight. And that on-board perspective with Pataska was probably the best viewed, Olin, because the 4 had been going immediately every single time. That time, he waited. The 2 car was on the gas and got about 4 car lengths in front of him. And to roll out of the throttle, the 4 car then went on the inside and really checked out the outside. Impressed we got through that one without all those cars stacking up.
There was even some 3-wide action behind them as well, so a very intense restart to say the very least. And one thing that I'm not sure people noticed under caution, the headlights on the pace car come on, and now the stadium lights have come on. So we are now officially racing under the lights here at Five Flags Speedway as the sun is fully set below the horizon, painted the sky in a beautiful, little pinkish orange. As a 22 car trying to fend off the number 5 of Briar LaPrade.
And this is kind of one big long line all the way back to P7. So Zach Novak has now gotten back up in this conversation. There's a little gap, you see after Novak there, about 4 or 5 car lengths, maybe some more, back to Ryan Kuhn in the 8th machine, or in the 8th position, Norton 9th, and continuing on back. So this big single file line, I don't think we've seen Hosvar this challenged by Pataska so far this evening. He hasn't had huge advantages, but there's certainly been more than a half a car length, and that's where we sit now, with everybody looking to the inside to decide if they want to be the one to make a challenge. Caruth bobbles that time a little bit. It'll open up the inside for Novak, who goes low. This battle for P6.
So Zach Novak continuing to try to make something work. He's trying to go around the outside, find some pace. LaPrade, though, going to go down the inside of Caruth. Caruth managing to hang on, stepping that tail out just a little bit more. Novak continuing to try to stay around that middle line, so it seems like that number 6 machine is really strong around the middle of the corner in that second lane and not quite as far down to the bottom. It's not an unusual thing. We have definitely seen, these cars kind of shift around like that. We saw it even with Blaine Aiken earlier on in this race with his moves around the outside. Novak, though, he's going to get around LaPrade and clear him coming down towards turn 3.
He's able to get in front for the time being. Novak trying to get up and on the move, and a battle up front now in second position as it's Retzlaff to the bottom of the 2 car, and he's got it. Parker Retzlaff inside, one of the standout drivers from the eNASCAR Ignite Series powered by iRacing, and he just made a move to get the number 2 spot, highest we've seen the 20 car so far this evening. That battle for second only temporarily allowed Hosvar to open up a gap to a little bit more of a comfortable distance of 0.4 of a second, as you see the 22 and the 6 going at it now, as Novak wants that march to the front of the field to continue on the bottom of Caruth.
Zach Novak, of course, a Peak Antifreeze Series driver. He's going to step the back out end as well in the run down to turn 3. You, of course, your Peak Antifreeze Series champion Novak trying to run down Raja Caruth in the run down to turn number 1. He's trying to win another event here today in the Snowball Derby. He won himself a championship. Well, why not win yourself a special event as well? One of the final ones of the year. Trying to look around the outside now. He might get this one done for 5th.
Yeah, just over a week and a half ago, as you see the 6 car almost clear on the outside, and he's got it. I think that's a lot of respect amongst those 2 drivers, well known to one another, as the 6 car wins out of that fight. Just a week and a half ago, Zach Novak got a $43,000 check for winning that 2019 championship, and he's out here trying to win the 2019 iRacing Winter Derby. This one doesn't come with a check, but it does come with a good amount of bragging rights.
Well, what else comes with a good amount of bragging rights is the fact that, of course, with that $43,000 check, you got to test the lane ball down at Myrtle Beach, so that's got to be something very special. I haven't gotten a chance myself to drive one of those cars. It's certainly something that I envy him for. I would certainly like to be able to have that opportunity myself, but Novak, of course, very talented driver, showing-wise very talented. He's up in the 5th place now, still trying to run him down. Battle is still on, though, for P number 6. Raja Caruth continuing to try to fend off Briar LaPrade.
And you're on board with the nose of the 5 of LaPrade, so you'll see how close he gets on the bumper of the 22 machine. That distance not close enough to dive to the bottom, and listen, Raja knows what he's doing, so he's protecting that bottom lane, shallowing up his quarter entry just a little bit as to not leave that door open for the 5 car behind him. It'll force LaPrade high, but there you go, slid wide off of the corner. That's not what he had been doing successfully the last few laps. Contact there, and he will hang on for now, but you give that 5 car an inch, and no doubt that he's going to jump on it.
That's what LaPrade's been doing all night, is been trying to work his way up with those little doors opening, and so far he's still trying to find one on Raja Caruth. He can try to find his way through. Looking back up front now, this is your battle for first. Parker Retzlaff is closing that gap to Carson Hosvar. Could we see that number 4 car be toppled from his throne at the top of the field for the first time today as we round down 20 laps before the halfway point? They're just under 0.2 of a second right now. And so far, Hosvar's really had to look in his mirrors. Retzlaff all over the bumper of him, trying to find a way through.
And once he was able to make that pass for second position, he has driven up and caught your race leader now all the way to the bumper there. But a caution flag will stop that charge short. It is Tucker Minter in the 17 car. He is turned around after contact between he and the 21 Machina Theodore.
So Tucker Minter, it looks like that incident was started by him. He got turned around by Theodore and then just got demolished by Connor Horn, who came flying in full head of steam and managed to Horn had to stop against the inside wall. The 18 car, Giovanni Romano, we were talking about him. He also had a moment, got into the inside wall as well. Replay up on your screen. This is the inside. This is a bit of a door bang. There goes the 7 around, and those 2 cars going to follow suit. And 12 car also got into the outside wall as well. Oh, and he got put in the inside wall too by the 14.
But we've seen drivers get away with more contact than what we saw there that sent that 17 to should have been turned around. As your race leaders dive down to the pit lane, much shorter interval this time. They went about 80 first time through, only 50 since then. But they are back down pit road and certainly now looking like a 3, if not a 4-stop strategy. We're 16 laps shy of halfway, and they are all going for 4 tires again.
There is the potential that they might be able to make it to the end from here, but it still would not surprise me to see these cars coming down at least once more throughout the course of this race, as we're still not even halfway into this, their second run of pit stops already. So I do think we're still waiting on that, but a big story developing, the Retzlaff has passed Hosvar in that pit stop cycle, so potential new leader, Parker Retzlaff from the pit lane.
Yeah, it does look like Retzlaff is going to be the first car off, I think, on what is the 4-tire call, because Blaine Aiken also beating both of those cars off for the pit lane. He opted to go for just 2. You can see the stop time there. Comparing Hosvar's 22.7 to Retzlaff, the 20.8 faster than him, and Aiken cut it in half most definitely with just that 2-tire call compared to the 4 for everybody else. So it'll be Aiken from 23rd on the grid to the race lead for the next restart, and Parker Retzlaff, first car on 4 tires from 15th at the start of the race, will be to the outside. Hosvar has not had to take a restart tonight from anywhere, but that front row, he'll be 3rd for this upcoming one.
This will be very interesting here, because now we can really fully see right up at the front of the field what's going to be better when we're at this point in a run. 2 tires or 4, because Blaine Aiken, he is up in first place right now, but Retzlaff did take 4 tires, remember. So did Hosvar, so Aiken might end up having his hands quite fully. Besides, that car, it's been stronger on the middle of the track, not so much on the low side, even when tire life was equal. So this will be quite the challenge for Aiken, I think, to hold on to that lead. Round into 3 and 4, getting ready for the restart.
Let's see how well those 2 tires operate, how well the 4 car navigates in traffic for the first time tonight. Green flag in the air. It's a good jump for the 32, but the 4 car is already on it. The 4 is on the inside of Retzlaff, who will go to the outside for the race lead. The 4 wants to go 3 wide, and there's contact. He tags Aiken, and on the inside, the 4 of Hosvar to the lead, and the 32 car drops like a rock.
Blaine Aiken somehow hanging on to that one. Amazing drive, just went 3 wide from the lead. Hosvar saying, you're in the lead. No, not so fast. That's where I belong. He puts his 4-car quickly back up at the front. Aiken continuing to drop down spots. He's down to 5th place, even lower than that. He's down to 7th now. A disastrous restart for Blaine Aiken. It's all gone wrong. Maybe a 2-stop strategy was not the best because he is getting absolutely swamped down here in this field.
And I will say, continue to be impressed by how many near misses we've had. And another restart there where they went 3 wide for the lead. Hosvar put the car where it probably didn't fit. And credit to Aiken for hanging on to that race car, as though he finds himself stuck at the outside. Not a lot of places to go. The 15 car with a big bobble and Liebert, he'll slow down. So the outside now all of a sudden the better place to be. And the 3 car of Ryan Kuhn drives it into the fence out of turn 2. Everybody back here in this battle at the tail end of the top 10 struggling to find some consistency as Connor Ozesric tries to go inside. Can't do it. Nowhere to go.
Oh my goodness, this is all really kicking off here as we approach the halfway point, isn't it? Liebert trying to throw it down the inside of Kuhn now. He's going to manage to get his nose in there, but will that be enough to make the move stick? Kuhn, really good drive up the corner. Not going to get it done. Aiken now defending both positions right ahead of them. Double file both ways through. One car really washing wide. Norton almost getting the outside one right behind them. But keeping our eyes up front here on Ryan Kuhn because he is continuing to try to fight his way. He's now going to go around Aiken, around to the outside. A move that Aiken himself has pulled, but he's not going to be able to defend against.
And this does bode well for the cars behind because, again, look at the 15 machine. He's trapped, so the 24 will find a spot on the outside. So Exesric tries to get on through. And now Liebert will try to go high side. I think that goes to show you just how important those tires were. 2 versus 4. And now the 8 car gets tagged. It's Hall who's around. The 7 and Norton is the one who spins. And a yellow just shy of halfway home.
There was a big hit behind as well. Sean Leisure went hard into the outside wall, right behind these guys as well. Completely doored the right side of the car, came to a dead stop. He might be done for the night because of that. This is the replay up on your screen for the maintenance. Then that's Norton. There you saw just the bottom of your screen. That hard hit for Leisure into the outside wall. But that car might very well be done for the night from that very hard hit on the number 30.
Yeah, watch it here. That's just kind of odd racetrack geometry there with the entrance for the back, the pits to get into the racetrack. That wall disappears, and I mean, you're not hitting that. That's not the same angle as the racetrack, so he hits that at a lot rougher of an angle. Probably the worst spot you could spin like that on track, and I do believe for that 30 machine that he is going to opt to take the tow to pit road. No, he was able to drive it there, so I guess that bodes well for him, but he did eventually tow it once he got to the pit road entry. So one of the harder hits we've seen this evening may end his race just shy, as we mentioned, of the midway point to this one. And I know it is just a couple of laps shy of it, but since we'll be getting set for a restart at 150, let's take this opportunity to take a look at our iRacing midway race break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally sanctioned series by the likes of NASCAR and many more. At 149, Carson Hosvar is your race leader with Parker Retzlaff in second position. Dallas Pataska third, Zach Novak fourth, and Parker Brookfield through your top 5, along with Jake Matheson in 6th, Brian LaPrade 7th, Ryan Kuhn at 8th. We also have Connor Ozesric in 9th, and rounding out your top 10 is Blaine Aiken.
And then round down through the 11th spot is going to be Liebert. And then down in 12th place, we have got Devin Hall. 13th with Raja Karuth. 14th, Kale Gale. Guillaume Fortin in 15th. John Theodore in 16th. Giovanni Romano in 17th. Michael Seal 18th. Tyler Hudson in 19th. And then Riley Thompson rounding off your top 20.
Jake Silva's 21st, Jose Salas Jr. in an incident earlier is 22nd, Jason K. Miller 23rd, Connor Horn 24th, and Tucker Minter through P25. He's on the pit lane, so he'll drop below Jared Wilson, along with Garrett Strakota, Will Norton, Clifton Cockrell, and Justin Botello in 30th. Those are all the cars on the lead lap. Sean Leisure is out of the race. He'll join Wyatt Warner in 32nd, and Dalton Williamson 33rd in the garage. So look top to bottom at your iRacing midway race break. Lights out on top of the pace cars. So now that we are past that halfway point, And we are now counting down to the end of this 2019 iRacing Winter Derby. The 4-car host for back in his office as he's the control car for this restart. Retzlaff once more on the outside of Pataska in that third position. Green flag back in the air. Picture perfect for the 4-car. He'll lead your top 3 single file.
Retzlaff getting right down to the inside, not wasting any time. Pataska still trying to fight against Novak, who is up to 4th place. Trying to get around the outside, almost making contact with that number 6 machine. Your Peak Andy Free Series champion of 2019, trying to fight around the outside of Pataska, trying to find a little bit of more difficult to try to find the room he needs on the slightly colder tires. Still trying to throw it in. Pataska really good on the brakes, but Novak does have that pace on the corner exit that he needs to try to pick up 3rd place. But I can guarantee you, Novak is looking to get up into 3rd, and as soon as he does, he's going to be really quick to run down your top 2 to the front.
It would be a race high for Novak if he can get there. Pataska is not going to be an easy car to get rid of, but he does it there out of 4. Zach Novak, race high P3. Tonight from Five Flags, he's got a half a second back if he's going to catch up to Retzlaff at House Bar. Let's watch the lap times to see if he starts to make up some ground.
That's going to be the thing to watch, because you need to, it's one thing to make a position, it's another thing to try to make enough time to run down the car in the next one. And so far on that last lap alone, he is a little bit faster than 2nd place of Parker Retzlaff. Looking at the lap times as they cross through the line again, Retzlaff clocks in a 16:151, Novak an 0:98, so he's about half a tenth quicker a lap right now than those 2 cars up in front, which is absolutely phenomenal for Novak. He's going to try to run them down. It's only a matter of time before he catches up to them.
And that's significant. There's only so many places on a short track like this when you're talking about the talent level of drivers in this where you could make up substantial amounts of time, and he's able to do so kind of in a pinch right there in the number 2 and 3 position with that 2 car as well. Pataska not really falling off of the back of him much either. So it will take Novak a few laps to make this work, but he will try an active battle a little bit further down. You'll see some side-by-side. The 1 car, Jake Matheson, on the outside of Briar LaPrade. He might finish that off at 4. Yes, he does. So he maintains P6, and it's Ozesric crossover to the inside of the 5. Not going to stick, though.
It is so difficult to make an over-under work, as now Okreshik is going to run the car a little bit deep into the corner. You saw Ryan Kuhn trying to go over and under and take a look around the inside. That also didn't work out for the number 3. Okreshik is taking a bit of a middle line, is almost leaving the door open for Kuhn around the inside, who's getting braver and braver on the brakes. A big twitch from the number 3 car, hangs on to it though. So hard to control these cars at the corners, and these guys have to manage to do it about 600 times if you count turns 1 and 2 and then 3 and 4 as well. So it is so difficult to manage these cars, but they are absolutely doing it perfectly. Down the back straightaway once again, well past the halfway point by now.
And now all of these moves, the restarts and the pit decisions thereafter start to become a lot more important, because now it's all about not just racing for the lead now, but positioning yourself to be in the best possible position as this race gets down to the end of it. Race time now just surpassing 1 hour in length since we saw the green flag here from Pensacola, Florida. So these drivers, I think, at this point have an idea of how their car is changed. And it is funny because I mentioned earlier on that, you know, if a race starts in the afternoon or evening conditions and races into the night, you would expect things to get a little bit cooler, Nolan. But I mentioned that the track temps weren't that cool to begin with. It's actually gotten hotter, and that's not obviously from the sun going down, the lights coming on. That's just from these guys running on the racetrack, putting heat into it by putting rubber down. So that is actually the change that has happened. At this point, you've realized if your car has changed for the better or for the worse, and you got to make do with it.
Way too late to change setups at this point in time, and now Novak is within striking distance of Retzlaff. He's under 0.2 of a second. He's trying to make the look around the inside. A little bit of a back end stepping out. This happens oh so frequently. Even for the best drivers like Novak, that back end will step out. It's just so hard to get to wrestle these cars around. And this is what we expect to see from your Peak Andy Free Series champion. Trying to run down Retzlaff, though. Looking to the inside. Might have to look around the outside to make it work. He is going to look around the outside, trying to get the momentum off at the corner.
And don't expect that 20 machine to just offer up the bottom of the racetrack. I know that it's not a ton. You can see Retzlaff is pretty much in a battle still with Hosbar for the race lead as much as he is with Novak attacking him, but I think he's going to have to turn that concentration to the rear view mirror as the 6 machine is trying to make some noise here, but drops off a little bit, so the 20 machine might have found something. Not running all the way on the bottom, I think, is a better line for the 20. That's where he can find some speed. Of course, your concern is if you're not running on the bottom in 3 and 4, you're going to leave the inside open. So what do? Do you run the defensive line, or do you run your faster line? Half a car length in the 3 and 4. He'll take the middle. Novak thought about it, but can't commit.
A little bit of a twitch from that number 20 car as well off of turn number 4. The back end started to slide out more and more as the tires start to wear more and more down. Novak in around the outside. His nose is there, and it's another big twitch. Retzlaff lets him go, and Novak up in a second place, now with some air, and now with some breathing room to run down Hosvar for the race lead.
That first twitch that you mentioned out of Ford the last time by kind of set the 6 car up to make that move. And once Retzlaff saw that he was all the way up alongside him, he let him go. Checked up and back straight away. So now Novak into second position at lap 173. It'll be curious to see if Retzlaff can maintain third or if he'll continue to fall back because, you know, Pataska, Parker Brookfield may be one of the quieter drivers of your fastest 5 or 6 that we've seen in this race. He's not that much further behind as well. It'll be interesting to see if they can get up on the 20 car, but the battle for third is a different exchange in its own right. The battle for the race lead. Novak, clear racetrack in front, needs 3 car lengths to get the Hosvar, but a bobble there will cost him some time.
Carson Hosvar has really been in complete control of this race. He's dominated the race entirely, except for, of course, where he lost the lead under caution in that pit stop run, but then managed to quickly gain it back within just 3 laps of us going back green, and he's been in the lead ever since then. So Hosvar, caution comes out. This might be the break that number 6 car will need. The car in question to bring it out, one Blaine Aiken, your 2-tire stopper. He got some help from Jared Liebert, overcorrected, went hard to the outside wall.
See the contact right here. Looks like a racing incident with a 15 car down to the inside, but something tells me this goes all the way back to Aiken still being on those older tires and probably being constantly under fire for the entirety of that run. You get the perspective of Liebert here as this battle went down the back straightaway into 3. The inside was open and it kind of came down a little bit again. I still think that goes down to Aiken just being slower, and I'm sure he was in many of those battles over the course of this one. Race leaders, though, back down pit road. They've shortened up that fuel number from 50-lap intervals now even to 40-lap intervals. They're in just shy of 180, expecting them all to go for 4.
So we've seen Hosvar lose the lead before on pit road. He could lose it again here. This time it would be, of course, to Novak. He's going to have to really try to work to get that car off of pit road in a hurry. The first car that's going to come out, though, is actually going to be Clifton Cockrell. He's down in 30th place, so I think he was already down there to begin with. There's Hosvar at the top of the pit lane. He's not going to come out first, though. It will be Zach Novak to take the lead in the pits.
And could that be the pass for the race win happening on pit road? Zach Novak, better than the rest, going with 4 tires to beat those cars off of pit road. Thompson, you see the 10-second stop, who now forfeits that and drops back in. Was obviously faster, but that 20-second range is the length to get 4 tires in service. And Zach Novak, I'm not going to say that he wasn't going to be able to get Retzlaff on the track, but it certainly would have been more of a challenge than that was. And that's not the first time that we've seen Retzlaff lose on pit road. So something the 20 car better figure out, because at the rate that they're going, at least 1, if not maybe even 2 more trips down to the pit lane by your race leaders in this race, if we still get the yellows to keep that door open, just as good as an opportunity to get back from Novak if you can't get him here on the restart.
Very much true indeed. Carson Hosvar, he is, of course, down to the 5th place. So will we see another charge down up through the field? He lost not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 spots in the pit lane. So it will be a big challenge for Hosvar to try to work his way up. But we see him quickly charge up to the field on these restarts. I don't doubt that he'd be able to do that again and pass by Brookfield, Pataska, and Retzlaff. The question will be, will he be able to run down Novak, who has been steadily charging up through this field from 12th place, now in control of this race? This could be a very interesting restart on our hands here.
And of course, haven't seen Novak control a restart, so we'll see what his play is going to be. Also, I don't think we've seen Hosvar as low as 5th position. Can he find his way back to the front, or is he going to be dealing with traffic for the rest of this race? Restart due up with 119 laps to go. Green flag back in the air, good for the 6. He's clearing away. A challenge to the inside, 3 wide for 3rd. It's the 4 of Hosvar on the inside. The 2 of Patasco wins out of the middle, and a 9-car way up top. Brookfield is into the outside wall, but hangs on.
Brookfield into the outside wall, and Hosvar, again, like I said, he's not wasting any time. He's already up to 3rd place. He's just got to run down Redslav, who's hot on the heels of Zach Novak, trying to keep within him. And it's the number 5 car, Brian LeBrad, who makes a little bit of contact with the outside wall. This time around, 3 wide throughout the restart. Manages to keep it all safe and sound somehow, despite 1 car going to the outside wall. Hosvar, though, like I mentioned, not wasting any time. He's desperately trying to get that back. He's desperately trying to get back his race lead.
And maybe the 4-car heard me say, I don't know if he's going to be able to get back up front or if he'll be dealing with that traffic, because that was a gutsy move. And again, these drivers with really no heads up going down into the corner are able to make that 2 to instantly 3 wide work. Everybody gets on through, a little bit of contact here and there, but again, just great driving by these drivers on these restarts. It's Novak, Retzlaff, and Hosvar now. Your top 3, a little bit of space in between all of them. First battle on track is for 5th spot. Brian LePrad's trying to deal with the one of Jacob Matheson, who's challenging on the inside. He can get the run off the corner there. The 5-car not clear, though. We'll have to deal with him again.
Matheson getting really late on the brakes. He's got the entry speed, but he just loses it all on the exit speed. LePrad is going to secure 5th place, and now Matheson is under the threat from Parker Brookfield, who's trying to look around the outside of that number 9 machine. Going to be able to get that done. Not quite just yet, but Brookfield continuing to try to work his way up past Matheson, up and into 6th.
He stays on it, and of course, consistency at a race like this, very important. Look at the 1 car sideways. Matheson tags the 9, but he hangs on. What a piece of driving by Brookfield. Now the 1 gets hit again. Matheson sideways. He's into the fence at a 2, and he'll get hit by the 26. Oh, what a big hit now. Caution flag is out. What a mess.
Huge crash there for Jake Matheson, and he's just gone from 0 to 0 down to the bottom of your might be done for the day. It was a huge hit for Justin Botello. Another incident for him. One driver that had to really lock it down to that, a close call. Jason Miller, who nearly drove right into this incident. Replay under screen. There is Matheson into the outside wall. Watch, heads up as the 12 comes screaming in. He got up as well, the number 12 actually from a car right behind him. Can't quite tell who that one is.
Well, I thought the Guillaume Fortin hit was hard when the 26 machine came into him, but it turns out it was that 2nd hit coming that really hurt, and you'll see what happens here with the number 12 machine and how all of this plays out as they're 3 wide again. The incident starts way in front of this battle. Cars start spinning, and is it the 14 maybe that is going to go up and hit him as he tries to avoid it? No, 12 just checked up, got hit right from behind, turned sideways into him, and that obliterated both of those cars.
And you saw right at the back of the shot in that green car, Jason Miller managing to back it down and got the car sideways as well, on board with Jared Wishon now. And there you saw the hit that sent the 12 into the 1 and lifted that 1 car up on the side. We almost had our first flip of the day for that number 1 machine. Almost surprised you haven't seen, a flip yet in this race from how many incidents we've been seeing around this track. But so this could get interesting here as well. Parker Retzlaff still in 2nd place. Carson Hosvar, we saw how aggressive he was to get from 5th and up to 3rd. It didn't manage to make anything work there. If he's going to be as aggressive as that, though, we could be seeing Novak being forced 3 wide and into the middle as Hosvar tries to take his lead back.
Yeah, he may try it again, and the big thing here is obviously his restart from row 3, probably just as disadvantaged as the cars in front of him from row 2. That's why he was able to make that dive. I don't think he's going to be on Novak, but certainly Retzlaff could be at risk here. The 20 has had ample opportunity to practice his outside of the front row restarts, but, I mean, Hosvar kind of showing you that he's not afraid to maybe drive it in a little bit deeper than you should. And if it has worked for him thus far, I don't see any reason why he would be convinced to not keep doing it.
Yeah, Hosvar, despite all of this, his fenders have been kept remarkably clean, and I think that's something we should probably mention as well. He is very decisive, but he's very, very talented as well, as he's showing here, because that car, despite all of his aggressiveness, it has been actually completely clean just about. No dents or bumps that I can see on that car, so truly something else from that number 4 car, and all those moves he's been making really paying off for him here today. Could try to make that look for the lead as the lights are back out on the pace car.
We'll see what the 6 Machines got up his sleeve for this one, just on the cusp of 100 laps to go. The iRacing Winter Derby holds back a little bit, puts the right foot down, green flag in the air, and here comes Hosvar. He'll rocket through into second position, and Brian LaPrade from 5th follows him. He'll fight on the inside of Retzlaff, this battle for 3rd.
Retzlaff still pinned down at the outside. He's going to have that exit speed. He's going to be able to secure that spot in 3rd. Goes down to quickly cover the inside line to avoid the Pratt from getting back into the slightly open door. Because if there's one thing we've seen, if there's an open door, these guys are going to do whatever it takes to go for it. There's on board the bumper of Retzlaff as he tries to reel in Hosvar. But Hosvar is quickly hot on the heels of Zach Novak, who is no doubt looking all sorts of nervous in his mirrors. Nearly gets hit in the rear. And Hosvar continuing to try to put that power down. This battle for 1st has certainly not gone away.
And the 4 Machine is all over the 6 now, so Hosvar obviously inspired, and he has been dynamite on the last 2 restarts. But now it comes down to speed. Novak, nobody in front of him. He's got the whole racetrack to work with. Hosvar on the bumper, a half a car length off. The 6 stretches is out, though, as they run on the straightaways. Retzlaff, LaPrade, and Pataska, the other 3 cars inside of your top 5. A little bit of funny going on behind them. Brookfield staying in front of Hall. No fight there. Everybody top 10 for the moment, single file.
Oh, you saw Hosvar getting really sideways up at the corner, nearly lost the back end. That would have been disastrous to his race. Manages to hold it together, but those tires have got to be quite angry with him right now. That allowed Novak to pull a little bit more of a gap, which is exactly what Novak wants to see. That car still all sorts of loose off at the corner, and you can see Retzlaff. He's looking all over the place. Caution comes out, and this is going to be another one on the front straightaway. Jared Liebert, the one this time. It looks like he started to lose it all on his own, was collecting himself, and that got run into from behind by Will Norton. About 100 laps to go.
Tyler Hudson was spun around also, but he was way down at 1. You'll see the 15. There's the initial spin. He gets sideways, comes up in front of the 7 at Orton, and then gets tagged. And then Tyler Hudson, trying to squeeze through all of this, loses it also. And the 10 car goes spinning. He got punted by the 24 of Ozasrik behind. He checked out to avoid the incident. 24 couldn't slow down in time either. There's that shunt that sent the 10 car spinning. So big mess down in turn number 1. Checks us back up and will bridge us inside for the final 100 laps of this race.
So Hosvar, we've seen how good he can be on the inside on these restarts. The question is, how will he fare around the outside? Because now, the 2 fastest cars of the race that have also been the 2 that have been getting going earliest on the restarts, they're going to be starting dead side by side. So this will be very interesting to see how things will work. So Novak, I don't know what to think about this one. This will get very antsy, to say the very least, as Hosvar might try to pull something special for us around the outside.
Well, I'll be real impressed if he can find a way to the inside from that outside of the front row. And, you know, if you get a good enough restart, all it takes is for the 6 to just get clear enough and the 4 to make the dive. And we've seen some drivers, there's a couple of cars, dive out and just get beat out by the pace car. I don't think Thompson made it, and I believe the other ones did. So Riley Thompson going to get booted back another lap after not being able to beat the pace car off of pit road from service. But we've seen some cars tonight not be as afraid of trying to work the outside line as others. And again, you can see just how wide that groove has been worked in. That rubber goes up almost a third, if not closer to halfway up the racetrack. Still not the best place to be, but it is better than it was on the opening lap. but I have not really seen Hosvar in a position where the outside's been where he's gone. Again, he's been up front all night long, ride the bottom, get good restarts. That's been his memo tonight. And then on the last 2 restarts, it has again been the bottom of the racetrack where he's made those moves. So does the 4 try up top where he really hasn't been? Would he challenge the 6 to the outside if he was there? Or would he rather tuck in line and then try to work on him to get the bottom where I think he's more comfortable?
Well, to me, it sounds like Hosvar might try to go to the bottom because, like you said, Evan, that's where he's been making all of his moves tonight, is along that inside line. That's where he's really been kind of dominant throughout this race. We're going to have 94 laps to go, so the time is slowly running out for Hosvar to start to make that move. We're now in the final third of this race. Carson is not going to have a whole lot of time to make something work, so... And then, of course, you have, Parker Retzlaff, who's going to be on the inside as well. And no doubt, Retzlaff is not going to be looking to give Hosvar any favors around that inside. Pace car is going to pull off, though, here. What will Novak do on this restart? Is he going to go early? Well, the answer is he's going to hold him out a little bit, but he is going to get on the power early. And immediately, Hosvar down at the inside, manages to clear him. He's down at the inside just where he wants to be.
Barely stayed in front of the 20 Retzlaff there, but he is able to defend for second position. So the fight's on for third. The 5 LaPrade on the outside. The 20 Retzlaff at the bottom in contact. The 5 gets loosened up. He'll lose 3 spots just like that as Brookfield and Pataska also cleared him on the bottom. Now the 8 car at Devin A. Hall side by side with him as well. Still leaning on his door. LaPrade, no friends out there.
Ryan LaPrade still trying to make something work. He's really pinching at him right down there. A little bit more contact. LaPrade getting shoved way up the racetrack. Might go 3 wide again here. Will Norton trying to make something work underneath the 5 car. Doesn't manage to work. Now Norton overdrives the corner around the outside. This is going to be 3 wide. Number 3 managed to not make it go 3 wide. Blaine Aiken in the middle of this as well. He's back up to 9th place after having some issues himself. So Aiken, his night is still going well for him, it would seem, despite some earlier incidents. Back up into the top 10.
All about where you finish. Doesn't matter about the tail between the start and the end. All you got to do is figure it out by the end of tonight's 300-lap schedule. Distance right now, working lap 2:11. Caruth on the inside of the 5. Been a while since we've talked about Raja. Dropped back a little bit. Been a top 10 car for the entirety of the first half of this one. And that Toyota down on the inside is trying to finish off LaPrade. 2 slideaways that time, though. Not able to keep the power down, and this 5 machine's putting up a good fight. LaPrade for P7 hangs on a long way around.
So LaPrade really managed to try to put that power down. He's going to try to run down Devin Hall now. That number 5 car, though, as I noticed, it hasn't really been able to make a whole lot of moves along the bottom, but he is not taking that middle groove yet. Still trying to see if that bottom lane has anything for him, I guess. And Roger Caruth's trying to make something around, but the caution comes out yet again. This one down at turn number 1. Justin Botello again into the inside wall.
Was just involved in an incident once more, this time with some help, and I don't know where you want to place the blame on this one. You'll see he gets sideways on the outside, and that's kind of why he comes across the nose at the 10, but the 10 kind of drove into the quarter panel. What I think happened there is Hudson was just planning on driving in behind him, and when the 12 got sideways, he scrubbed off enough speed that Hudson, who was going to tuck behind him, ended up on the quarter panel, and that's why it looks like Tyler Hudson drove into him. And there you go, you saw the bobble. Tyler Hudson wasn't really trying to force to the inside, but the bobble checked him up. He gets turned around, and those are 2 drivers who have had some rough nights to this evening.
I think you kind of have to put that one down to a racing incident because you saw the bobble there from Botello as Hudson, nothing really he could do. He was already committed to his line on the exit of the corner. It's kind of hard to check up on the outside of these corners to avoid running into somebody. We've already seen it a couple of times tonight already, and so I think that one could be chalked up to a bit of a racing incident there. Of course, doesn't make it any more pleasant, but at least there's some satisfaction in knowing that you're not really going to be putting the blame on any one driver in that type of scenario.
A lot of those tonight. Seems that is how the short track game goes, and you talk about special events like this, and I did say that, this is a who's who, if you will, of some of the best drivers, short track drivers as well, on the service. These guys are all very well acquainted with one another. When you get to the top level of sim racing, you tend to get to know some of the other names around you. When you do have some of the other drivers in this race that obviously are those high I-rating drivers, but may not be at that pro and, black stripe license level quite yet. The interesting thing that I like about these special events, Nolan, is you're not racing with the guys that you race with every given week. If it's a league race or an official series race in iRacing, you tend to kind of race around the same drivers a lot. So there are some drivers who are still trying to feel each other out. And I feel like some of the incidents outside of your top 10 may come down to that being a factor, is you just don't know exactly how everybody else is going to drive around you. You just don't know them.
That's kind of what makes, the official racing sometimes more thrilling than league races, is just the unpredictability about them. With, not knowing quite who's around you, unless, of course, you're up in the top split and you've got guys like Zach Novak running up near the front of the field. But yeah, it adds that level of unpredictability to these types of races, and it makes them really a thrill to be able to watch and even drive in. I think so many of these drivers are getting the thrills that they want. Some of them, though, might argue that the thrills they're getting might not exactly be the type of thrills that they would be hoping to have.
One driver is going to have a thrill by the end of this one. They still have to wait another 81 laps to do so. And I'll tell you what, for these restarts, you're going to feel like they're dragging on and on as these drivers so close to that home stretch. They want to be able to decide it amongst themselves out on the racetrack. Husvar was a little slow out of the gate last time. Let's see this time through. Is immediately crossing to the inside, looking to get on the bottom of Novak. Can't do it. He'll stay second. The 9 of Brookfield back in the back. He'll get pushed outside and lose a couple of spots as Pataska and LaPrade get by him.
Retzlaff got a little bit checked up on that restart as well from Hosvar ducking down around the inside. That's something that Hosvar really seems to want to do. Want to make sure that there is no room for Retzlaff to stuff his nose in to make sure that he pins down the outside wall, showing that Hosvar is a very aggressive driver. And that's something that I don't think is going to be expected. Caution comes out once again. We have one car sideways in the pit lane, but it looks like it might be a big one over there in turn number 4.
Strakota is spun on pit road. There's some cars still out on track that were involved in this one, but it all started with Strakota in the 14. This battle goes down into 3. There's the punt by the 23, and he almost got shish kebabbed on the pit wall. This is one incident. There was more smoke even further up the road where the 11 car got tagged. Will Norton also got turned around, so a ton of chaos. All starting, I believe, with Connor Horn getting hit by the 17 machine of Tucker Minter. And I don't know if there was a history there, because Minter went back and hit him again under the yellow flag.
That is true, so temper is beginning to flare a little bit here, it would seem. So some drivers not getting too happy with their racing companions here. It seems like Horn might be among them. So, tempers do tend to flare, especially in short track racing, and sometimes we've seen tempers get the better of people. And still Novak managing to hold on. And honestly, in that mess, there was about 4 or 5 cars that spun around, but it totaled about 10 cars really big contact and got damage out of that as well. So it was, of course, a big incident. Not the first one we've seen. Might not be the last either. This temper seemed to be started to overflow here at Five Flags.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too stressed if, my car gets a couple of dings on it. You don't have to worry about these super late models. When you talk about aerodynamic damage, certainly you get suspension damage and you throw things out of whack, and it is going to make your night a lot more difficult. That car is never going to get back to 100%. Not that you really get many, if any, opportunities to sit on pit road to get the damage fixed anyways, but when you get hit a 3rd and a 4th and a 5th time, and at this point in the race, even your race leaders don't have completely clean race cars. They've been in it oftentimes just kind of rubbing alongside one another at several points. Good example of that's the 20 of Parker Retzlaff, whose driver's side door panel has seen better days. It does get annoying, and that's kind of the staple mark of short track racing. The sun is long gone, the lights have been on. You race into the evening, you race hundreds, literally, of laps with the same guys, and if somebody is, cutting you off and not giving you space, you get angry, and temperatures boiling over and people getting upset is what makes this kind of racing so exciting. Haven't seen that get out of control up front, but certainly some signs of frustration with the drivers taking some shots at one another after the yellow flag came out in that most recent one. This restart, once again, see the 6 of Novak in control, has been untouched since he took the race lead away from pit road, but Carson Hocevar has been a formidable foe on the outside. He'll try again at 74 laps to go. Green flag, but it's Parker Retzlaff on the bottom. He'll challenge for P2.
So Hocevar not being lucky enough to get down to that inside line this time. Retzlaff going to be the one to challenge for second place. He's going to manage to work his way up, maybe. Now we get to see how Hocevar can make around the outside. Doesn't look like he has the same speed that he has around the inside. Gets in right behind that 20. Big hit to the outside wall. Got multiple cars spinning around. Big hit, though, in turn number 2.
Dallas Pataska absolutely destroyed, and he was the pinball in the middle of this. Watch the number 2 car as the race down to 1. They single file out. He checks up a little bit, gets hit from behind. The car brakes sideways. He turns it right to correct it, and I think he got another shot as he started to regain traction, and it launched him into the outside wall. And for at least the second time this evening, poor Jarrett Lieber was just driving around on the outside and hit a car that was stopped in front of him. You saw the onboard with Caruth there with the contact, but Lieber, tough break, is again, innocent victim of that. Watch the 15 car, at least the second time this has happened to him.
So definitely not something Lieber wanted to see. He's already had so many difficulties. And again, that hit might put Pataska out of commission for the night. This is going to be on board with Lieber now. There's the second hit for Pataska. No doubt busting up the nose on Liebert's car even more. Pataska is ulted down into the lane now, and front end of that car completely torn up along with the right rear quarter panel on that car. So that number 2 machine definitely looking healthier, or it has seen healthier days, and it wouldn't surprise me if that car was done for the night or at least put out of race commission.
And in an event like this, I will say, very impressed that there are still 29 of the 33 cars who started it on the lead lap, because oftentimes you talk about a special event, well, you really don't get anything for finishing way back, and once your car gets damaged or you fall so many laps down, you kind of say, well, I'm not winning this one, and I'm just going to put it in the garage. But with only 70 laps to go in this race, almost all of the cars who started it still in this one. Only Guillaume Fortin, Sean Leisure, Wyatt Warner, and Dalton Williamson out of it. Williamson had to go to the garage after being involved in an incident very early on in this one. So the only cars that have dropped out happened from pretty legitimately damaging incidents. So good to see everybody still out here competing hard. And I feel like if this was lap 130, we probably would have saw cars down pit road that time. They went about 80 before they pitted, and then 50 and 40, and they kind of wanted tires more and more, Nolan. But since then, now that if you pit, the track position means a lot, they're a little bit more timid on deciding to come down pit road. Curious if we're going to stay out through the final 70. They can do it on fuel, but do we see drivers risk giving up the track position to get the tires later on?
Well, that'll be the one case, and like I said right at the top of the broadcast, sometimes it might be that one driver coming down will signal all the others that it might be time to come down, and I think that might be in the hands of Novak to decide that for us today. Now, though, we're going to look to our restart, and now we're going to see something very interesting. Hocevar, once again, on the inside line. Retzlaff up top. So while Hocevar went down a spot, he's back in the lane that he loves so much in this race. Novak going to get on the throttle. Bit of a twitch though by Hocevar as he gets on the power, loses all his momentum, and he's going to leave the door wide open for Retzlaff as they run down to turn 1.
And Hocevar got into the back of Novak a little bit there, but now it's the 20 car bobbling 3 wide for second. Hocevar to the inside of the 20. The 5 of LaPrade wanted none of that. He backed out of it. Now 3 wide for third. Here comes Raja Caruth to the bottom. Again, LaPrade not wanting to run a third lane, tucks in line, and somehow, for as awful as a restart that was for Retzlaff, he's cleared a P2 by a lot.
That got really hairy there for a second as Caruth manages to throttle his way through, and the 5-car Brian LaPrade had gotten shoved up the racetrack as well. But now it is going to be a battle that's going to be going on hard behind them. Parker Brookfield trying to look around the outside, manages to clear Okrejic. He's going to throw it up the inside of LeBrat with a dive bomb. And LeBrat trying to fight back around the outside, but that number 5 machine doesn't have the speed. Trying to go down to cover that 24 machine, going to chop his nose as they go down to the turn 3.
Bullies his way down to the inside line. The 24 machine of Connor Azesra kind of backed off a little bit to allow the 5 to come down, or they may have been on a collision course. He finds a spot in line, and all is okay. So Hosvar, who is on the attack now, sits third fiddle to Parker Retzlaff, who is chasing down Zach Novak on board between your first and second placed cars. Close enough to move him up if he wanted to. That's something we really haven't seen, is some bump and runs. Caution flag, 239. Oh, and it's a big mess at the far end of the racetrack.
John Theodore, Blaine Aiken, 2 drivers that incited this one. It was Theodore that threw it up the inside of Aiken. Aiken held on to it, but Theodore got run into, completely run over by Giovanni Romano, and that caused that number 21 machine to slide back in front of the field, and everybody else checking up behind him. Another classic late model crash where one car goes around, everybody else just piles in, already way committed to the line. Jason Miller seemed to have gotten some of the worst of that, stuck against the inside wall, might have even gotten the car stalled, had trouble getting the car rolling again, it would seem, as here's the replay back up on your screen. And honestly, Aiken, he can thank his lucky stars that wasn't as worse as it was, because it was the 21 car that helped to clog the rest of the field up to make sure that Aiken didn't get run over and all of that.
You can see on the board right now with Justin Patello, and you can see everybody scatter in front of him. Nowhere to go, and right into the side of the 21 of Theodore. Again, another one of those weird incidents where someone's making a dive to the inside into the corner, but they're not running the inside line. I don't know. They keep thinking these guys are going to give them a ton of room or not, but that's just not normally how things play out. So another caution flag cycle goes through, and once again, your race leaders opting not to come down for service. Now inside of 60 to go. Novak didn't even glance to the pit road entry.
So this is going to start getting interesting here. They are definitely able to make it on fuel. We can definitely confirm that for you. They will make it on fuel. The question is all going to be on tires. How long will the tires last? And of course, you have to remember, I think we have green-white checkers on in this race session as well. So if we do have these types of cautions, we could be seeing those come into effect as well, a new addition to the feature on the oval racing side.
Well, as we wait for this thing to restart, of course, you can look ahead. We mentioned this is one of the final iRacing official events of the 2019 calendar. Tons of exciting stuff coming up for the 2020 season, and I think a lot of these drivers use this winter season as an opportunity to kind of get set for next year and kind of let loose. And I do believe, to confirm that, 3 green-white checker attempts may be in store for us if needed. Of course, if there's a yellow inside of the final 5 laps, that would probably trigger a green-white checker unless we get the white. That makes the race official. So we'll only way to find out is to see where we sit in 56 laps from now. But Zach Novak, again, is probably getting tired of going through the motions, because Retzlaff and Hosvar have been pretty convincing. They are both hungry from both second and third position. You gotta think that if you keep giving them opportunities, one of these times, they may just find your way to the inside and to make a real fight for the race lead. Novak in control as he leads him at a turn 4. For Cara Hosvar, side by side for second.
Jose Solis Jr. down in the back. He had a terrible restart. He's already going to be throwing another car around. Big crash on turn number 2. It will be the 28 machine. To bring this one out, Jared Wishone going to be the car that spun it around after the 13 had a disastrous restart and ended up turning that number 28 machine right around. And there you see the replay up on the screen. 13 washed up, pinched the 28, and just hooked him right around.
Yeah, yielded a little bit too much room to the 7 car, Will Norton, who had gone down to the inside of the racetrack. So he pushes up, and the 28 machine, obviously not expecting him to come up the hill, gets into him, and it is another big mess of race cars. Something else that I saw interesting, I was watching that battle for second position. When the yellow flag came out, there was a little bit of a door slam on behalf of Carson Hosvar to Retzlaff to try to move him out of the way. He did eventually pass him, but of course the yellow flag came out, So the 20 will maintain that number 2 spot, but Hosvar doored him down into turn 3 to move it up and out of the way. So maybe we are at that point now where we're going to start using the bumpers.
I'm honestly kind of surprised we didn't reach that point in the race earlier, but you know, it is something that these late models are almost built for, is bumping and banging, and that is, of course, the nature of short track racing is for rubbing. Rubbing is definitely racing, and at a track like this with cars like these, it is absolutely no exception. It's something you have to really expect and prepare for coming into a race like this. Hosvar, like you said, tried to give Retzlaff the door. Didn't work out. Well, I mean, it did work out, but the caution came out, so I had to give the position back. So, I mean, kind of a half win, I guess. He's shown that it could definitely work, but didn't manage to make it stick thanks to that caution that ended up coming out. So, Hosvar, though, he is starting to get a little more desperate, it would seem.
And he knows that his opportunities are going to be limited, even at this rate, where we're getting, you know, shorter runs that we've seen all night long. At one point, we were getting closer to 30 and 40 laps before, you know, you would see yellow. And now, even back in the pack, everybody's maybe dropping a little bit too aggressively. You know, you get one every 5 laps. That only means you have, what, 5 more restarts? You get 5 laps in, 5 laps on a yellow, what, max 5 before you get into the green and white checkers. So you have limited opportunities to try to make something happen here with Novak, and I think the saving grace for the 6 car may be the fact that Retzlaff and Hosvar are so evenly matched, they're fighting with each other more often than they can even think about the 6 car.
I honestly think you're right. That seems to be, you know, what's happening here, but that is exactly what Novak wants to see. It would be a dream for that number 6 car to see these guys battling for P2 more than the win, because that means that with every lap that they're side by side, he can pull a little bit more ahead. So Novak is really hoping that they continue to fight it out, and that seems to be the way things are going to play out. Pace car goes off. Novak on the power early, and this time it's going to be Retzlaff to copy Hosvar's move, ducking down to the inside, chopping his nose off. That might be to show Hosvar, hey, this is what it looks like when you do it to me. I'm going to do it right back to you. That's apparently how we race now. Hosvar trying to look around the inside, but Retzlaff currently has second place firmly secured.
We obviously saw what the 4 car did last time through, and that was the intention all along. So Retzlaff with that very early dive, he was tucked in line behind the 6 before they even really came at turn number 4, but it works. Novak and Retzlaff, a little bit of an advantage over Hosvar and company. See a side-by-side fight there. Devin Hall in the 8 machine, fighting with the 9 of Parker Brookfield. This battle also ahead of a side-by-side fight with Minter and LaPrade, so a lot of action going on. Top 5, top 10, none of which, though, for the race lead. Novak a car length and a half clear now, 2, as Retzlaff tagged the wall.
And Minter also went down and almost hit the inside wall. The 5 had gotten to the outside wall, came down, got to the 17. 17 shot down low and somehow corrected the car before it ran straight into the inside wall. So Minter has to settle for 8th spot for now. Ryan Kuhn, he's down in his own fight for 9th as he tries to fend off Connor O'Kreshik, who is now back and up into the top 10. The number 24 machine down from 4th place, still trying to work his way back further up the field.
But exactly what he can. The 3 of Kuhn is really the driver falling backwards on this restart as he's kind of gotten pinned up on the outside. You know, the 17 machine of Minter has been able to get on through him, and now he's battling with the 24 car of Connor Ozesrek. So this is the battle right now for P9 and P10. The battle for the race lead still ongoing, but not engaged with each other. And you see the 3 of Kuhn clear that time, so he will hang on to 1 spot. First battle he's won off of the restart.
So Ryan Kuhn on the inside, trying to run down Tucker Minter. He's going to throw it up the inside. Minter left the door a little too wide open, and Kuhn saw the opportunity, shoved his nose in, and now he's got his foot in the door. He's preparing to kick it down as Kuhn continues to run underneath that number 17 machine, going to put himself up yet another spot. That number 3 car looking strong on the inside.
He is, and I think if he's able to get back down here, this is the kind of the flip the script, because he lost all those spots, pinned on the outside. So he gets the preferred positioning back, And next thing you know, he's right back around the 17 Minter, the car who just passed him no more than, 5 laps ago, closer on for the restart. Interesting happenings, though, up front, and the 20 of Retzlaff smacked the wall again. He's overdriving that car. It was a top 2 breakaway, no longer, as Hosvar has reeled in from 3rd spot. Now a 3-way battle for the race lead, with Novak opening up a big advantage at 3.5 tenths.
Retzlaff's right front fender is looking more and more unhealthy. This is not going to be good for that number 20 machine if he wants to continue to run down Novak for that race lead. Hosvar can see that win still in his sights, but in order to get past Novak, he needs to pass by Retzlaff first. And it's going to be a real challenge. Retzlaff has shown that he's not going to be giving any quarter to Hosvar as he tries to continue to fend him off. And despite that hit to the wall, I think Retzlaff is still slowly reeling in Novak lap after lap.
We'll see if he could keep this up. Consistency is probably going to be his biggest gripe here. If he can keep it out of the wall, I think the 20's got a good opportunity. I don't know if I can pinpoint of these 3 cars up front which one might be a little bit better. And if they are as even as at least they appear to be, then that track position for Novak may be the thing that puts him over the top. But Retzlaff could put down good laps when he wants to. The last time, a little bit faster than Novak. But he can't keep hitting the wall. He's going to run out of laps with 35 laps to go this time.
Crossing over onto lap 266. So few laps left to go, 35 left to run down in this race. Novak, he's planning on leading every single one of them, and with their field just about single file throughout its entirety, another caution is looking more and more unlikely. The gaps are significantly bigger. We do have one fight further down, though. Parker Brookfield around 5th place, trying to get around Raja Caruth, but Raja managed to hold off Brookfield, who is now under threat from Devon Hall.
Yeah, Raj up to the highest he's been in a little while, so if he could finish this one, top 5 would be in a good spot ahead of Brookfield. And you mentioned Hall, LaPratt, and all of these drivers still mixing it up, but relatively calm through most of the field. So does this have an opportunity now to go the distance? This race never really grew the legs, Nolan. I think we thought it may have at about that midway point. I thought we would have gotten a longer run in. Those longer runs actually came earlier, and since then it has been a lot of stopping and starting, but they're knocking off laps now at a pretty good pace. Novak looking to 30 to go next time by. There's a chance that they'll have that much time to just figure it out amongst themselves and play the cards where they lie.
Well, like you said, they could definitely make it on fuel. The question is still going to be on tires, because none of these leaders have come down within the past, 50 laps, I believe. So Novak right now, he is still up in front, but can he hold it on there on those more worn tires? That will be the question. Right now, though, that seems to be the case, because he is actually beginning to build that gap on Retzlaff more and more. Retzlaff losing more time. The gap is down to 4 tenths now, and another 4 tenths down to Carson Hosvar. So it is beginning to look like this fight for first, Novak might have this all said and done, assuming there is not another yellow.
And that's the big caveat. And I think now with Retzlaff starting to, he's been pretty even with Novak admittedly, but he isn't closing, and you need to start closing. And I don't know if Zach and Novak's somebody that you can hold your breath on and hope that they're going to make a mistake. That you may need that. I thought Hosvar, who had reeled these 2 in, may have been the fastest of the trio, but now he has also dropped back, and he's nearly an entire second behind Novak. I think they may need another restart if they want to get something going here. It's going to come down to mistakes, and the only driver we haven't seen really make a big one tonight is Novak. Does that mean he's due, or does that mean he's locked in?
Well, it could be a little bit of both, in all honesty. Looking further down to your order now, this is going to be Brookfield running right behind Raja Caruth in your battle for 4th. And the number 8 car, you saw Devon Hall, he did get muscled out of line a little bit in that fight. And he is, of course, further down the order, but keeping our eyes on the number 22 machine. Those brake discs really glowing in the night sky now as that number 22 machine continues to try to keep it up front. And so far, he has been controlling 4th place pretty nicely.
And hard on the binders as these drivers continue to fight for some of those other battles throughout the field. Something else I'm going to note, not to take away from the Brookfield and LaPrade exchange, which I feel like is going to break into side-by-side soon, as he looks to the inside of Caruth, but can't do it. But your race leader, Zach Novak, is also on this run, now starting to catch up to some traffic. Not there yet, but give it another 10 laps. I feel like he will have to deal with some before this race is over with. Justin Botello ahead of him. Michael Seal as well. See the view out of the front there. There's one car, that is Botello, as I mentioned, and then after him, then they start to stack up. I don't know if he'll get all the way up there, but definitely the 12 car, certainly hoping that he's paying attention to who's coming up behind him.
So Novak might get interesting to him here for him in his race lead. If he gets held up even in the slightest behind Botello, it would be disastrous to that gap that he has continued to build, which is now up to 6.5 tenths of a second. Retzlaff managed to close in that gap by about 300ths on the last lap, but there is Botello, who is just behind that number 5 machine. I'm a little confused where we are, so I deeply apologize. This is further down your order, and this is going to be in your fight for 6th place.
Yeah, Brookfield is the one defending, but I mean, he was just attacking Raja Caruth for 4th, so they're all kind of intertwingled here, if you will. Connor Horn back to the top 10. First time we've seen the 11 in the top 10 position for a while. That's a little bit even further down the road also. So potential for some of these spots to still be exchanged, but not happening yet, as there you see Novak working around that traffic. Able to easily dispose of Justin Botello, who will fall a lap down. Kudos to the 12 for all he's been through. He is only, with that move, 1 lap down. Certainly sticking this one out, and now Novak next up the road would see that thick traffic, and he's catching him a lot faster than I initially thought he would. He'll definitely be in that traffic if this thing stays green, and that traffic is battles for position. So they may be a little bit less inclined to pull over and get out of the way. And with Retzlaff falling even further back now, a whole 7 tenths behind Novak, the biggest advantage the 6 car has had at any point tonight. He really needs Novak to get held up here.
That's going to be the big difference here is, you know, the last lap car of Botello, he is a driver that was just on his own, so he could sacrifice moving himself out of the way to get out of your fight for the lead. These cars can't, though, because like you said, they are in a hot battle for position right now, swapping lanes just with every lap, but Novak gets to the inside of Michael Seal and manages to put that 29 car lap down, so that will split that battle for position up a little bit more. Novak now in the thick of it, and it looks like he might be able to use lap traffic as a pick against Parker Retzlaff, who is also beginning to catch the same group of cars.
You can see the 6 is down on the inside of the 28. That hurts him a little bit there with wishing to be in there on the corner exit, but he's able to get around him and Seal, so no problem. But now Retzlaff sees 2 cars in between him and Novak. He needs to get around them just as easily. So the 29 going to move up, give him space. Very nice driving on behalf of Michael Seal to let him go, and expecting Jared Wishing to do the same thing once he gets up to him. But you know, you really need Novak to get stuck behind a side-by-side battle for this to happen. All of these drivers look like they're paying enough attention that they're not going to get into 6's way.
I don't think any of the drivers up front are close enough at this point to get out of his way either. Novak now right behind Jake Matheson, who's going to go high, let him through with no incident whatsoever. The only battle at this point that Novak will be catching could be your fight for 18th between Clifton Cockrow and Jason Miller. But at this point, they're still so far apart from each other that I just do not see side-by-side traffic becoming a problem for that number 6 machine.
And you never know. All it takes is not even a car to, I mean, we're not saying, of course, that these drivers are going to be intentionally holding them up, but just you don't see that car coming. But also, what if, you know, a car has a problem, spins out, wrecks in front of Novak? We've seen it many times tonight. Drivers not have anywhere to go, and these are kind of the things that would be running through, I think, most people's heads when they're leading. I think Zach Novak has got enough ice in his veins that he's fine and he can lock in and not be worried. But when you're counting down the laps like this and you see the car in second position getting further behind, all you're hoping is that everybody in front can keep it on the right track, and of course that the yellow flag is not picked up by the flagman. As we're closing in this time, 6 laps to go at 5 flags. It's all Zach Novak now way out in front by 1.5 seconds.
Parker Retzlaff actually lost out in second place. You see Hosvar's up in front of there, and I took a look back at that. Retzlaff's car sounded like it completely shut off going into turn number 3, and that's what allowed Hosvar to just coast on through. So Retzlaff having a very weird moment in that number 20 machine. Seems to be running fine now. It's way back up to pace, but disaster for Retzlaff's pace in the run down into 3rd place. This is going to be on board with him now. I think this might be showing what happened. It was on a slow lap, and very weird for Retzlaff to have that car suddenly just shut off mid-corner. There you have it right there.
Well, we've seen drivers miss shifts on restarts. Maybe he found neutral that time, downshifting and then maybe upshifted again as he came off of the turn. Would it have been the first time tonight that something funky happens? And that costs him that 2nd spot as Hosvar gets on through. But even with that last position gained, he's not going to be anywhere near close enough to challenge Zach Novak. Started in 12th position in this race and took a little bit of time to fight his way through the field. Didn't do it right out of the gate, but once he got up there, actually made that pass that will hold to the distance by being the best car on a cycle of pit stops. He didn't look back since then, and Zach Novak going to drive into the Pensacola night as he'll go into 3 and 4 for the final time. Zach Novak wins the 2019 iRacing Winter Derby.
Zach Novak, he won at Daytona, he won at Homestead, now he's won at Five Flags. He is your Florida ringer, I guess you could say. Novak taking victory here in the Snowball Derby at Five Flags Speedway tonight, and it will be another victory for Novak. He won the Peak Antifreeze Championship of 2019, and now he wins one of the final Irish special events of the year. He's going to come down onto the front straightaway, crawls it over to the start-finish line, and it looks like he is going to maybe start to burn it down, bring it to a stop for now.
You saw the 22 of Raja Karuth drive by and give him a hand out the window virtually, if you will. Congratulations. And now he'll celebrate on the front straightaway. Might own the Sunshine State after this 2019 campaign. And again, what a year it has been for Zach Novak. Most people, you win the iRacing Winter Derby, that's probably the highlight of your career. Not for this driver, who became an eNASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series champion. But this one means a lot as he will close out the year the same way he began it. And that is in a victory lane here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Let's take a look top to bottom at tonight's RaceSpot TV full race results as Novak goes for the win, beating out Carson Hosvar and Parker Retzlaff in a battle that went on towards the end of this one. They finished 2nd and 3rd behind him. Parker Brookfield picks up spots late. He finishes 4th, and Brian LaPrade finishes exactly where he started in P5. So those late positions gained means that Raja Karuth drops to P6. Devin A. Hall goes 22nd to 7th by the end of this one. Ryan Kuhn finishes in the number 8 position. Connor Horn is 9th, and Tucker Minter rounds out your top 10.
Connor Okrejic down in 11th place. Will Norton finishes off at 12th. Tyler Hudson hangs on for 13th place. Jared Liebert, despite all of his issues, is in 14th place. Giovanni Romano, 15th place. Jake Sylvia in 16th. John Theodore, 17th. Clifton Cockrell in 18th. Jason Miller in 19th. With Jake Matheson rounding off your top 20, one lap down.
And continuing on through with a couple more drivers a lap down in this one. You got Jared Wish in 21st, along with Justin Vitello 22nd, and Cale Gale in 23rd. That was a fast car early on that kind of dropped away a little bit. Michael Seal finishes 24th, Garrett Strakota P25, and Jose Salas Jr., the final driver on the racetrack when the checkered flag flew into P26. So the rest of the cars not making it the distance. Blaine Aiken, Riley Thompson, Dallas Pataska, and Guillaume Fortin all through P30. We've got Sean Leisure 31st, Wyatt Warner in the number 32 position, and 33rd, and shotgun on the field is Dalton Williamson. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside, and when we come back, we'll talk to your top finishers. That includes race winner Zach Novak, who's on top of the 2019 iRacing Winter Derby. More action coming up for post-race right here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network.
Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
And welcome back live to the virtual Five Flags Speedway, where Race Spot TV's coverage of the 2019 iRacing Winter Derby continuing as we welcome you into post-race action here on the iRacing Esports Network. Evan Pasoko, Nolan Rempel, and our director Randy Cheneth with you from Pensacola, Florida, where Zach Novak is your 2019 winner of the Winter Derby. Was able to hold off in a great battle late with the likes of Hosvar and Retzlaff, and we're trackside now with the driver of the number 6 machine. Zach, congratulations on another big win for you in 2019 here on iRacing. Tonight it comes at Five Flags Speedway. Tell us about the night.
Yeah, we started off not really that great in the daytime, and then as the race progressed, we got better and better, and yeah, I mean, I just kept going at it and making sure that we just kept getting better. I kept improving my line, and I found a really good line there at the bottom towards the end of the race and during the nighttime. And car was just a rocket ship. Can't thank Jimmy enough for that awesome race car. And it was really fun to race with these guys and come out and just have some fun.
Looked like once you were able to drive through the field, that we mentioned it there as you were coming to the checker, that it wasn't a quick drive up front, but certainly when you got there, you never looked back. You're running in second position, I believe. We come down pit road for service. You go for the 4 tires, better than the rest. You end up as the leader and really never looked back from that point. Tons of restart opportunities, though, for Carson Hosvar, Parker Retzlaff to try to do something with you. They looked close. You were able to pull away at the end, but what did you think the difference was between you and those two?
I think I just had really good long run speed, and the car was just good enough to hang in front of them on the short runs, and it's tough to pass. So I just pretty much ran my line and knew that if they got close enough, I could defend it on the top pretty well. So um, yeah, I tried my very best to not get in that situation, not give them the opportunity to move me out of the way or anything like that. Um, and then I knew if we went green at the end there that I could have an opportunity to pull away, and we did just that. Like I said, the car was a rocket ship, and I really had a blast.
You started the 2019 iRacing season with a win just down the road at Daytona International Speedway in the Peak Series opener, and you'll end it with another win in the Sunshine State tonight from Five Flags Speedway. Obviously, an incredible year for you, becoming the 2019 eNASCAR Piquet Freddy's iRacing Series champion and getting to enjoy that trip down to Homestead just a week and a half ago or so. But, to be able to also hop on the sim and participate in fun events like this with some pretty stiff competition, I have to imagine is pretty fun.
Oh yeah, I always have a blast coming and racing short tracks and whatnot. It's tough, man. These guys are good. A lot of these people run short tracks for a majority of their time on the service, and to come and run with them is always a blast. And it makes me competitive too. It makes me want to get better, and I want to beat those guys that race this a lot. So, um, that's what I always try and do. I always try to be the best. I'm not quite at Jimmy's level in these short track cars, but um, like I said, I just try my best to improve, and tonight I felt like I got better as the race progressed. So that's a positive for me.
Certainly mission accomplished as you're the winner of the 2019 iRacing Winter Derby. It was a long race, hard fought for you as well, going through the motions so many times on the restarts and whatnot. We'll let you get out of here, Zach. As always, though, sponsors and shout-outs, who do you want to say hi to?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody at Lockdown Racing. Jimmy, of course, I mentioned him a few times already. He really works a lot on these super late models. It's something he enjoys doing, and it's just a pleasure to drive them. And I can't thank him enough for putting this setup together. It was really, really, really good. So thanks to him, thanks to JDR Graphics for being on the race car. Obviously, all the partners at Rush Fenway Racing, Oscar Mayer, Acorns, Acronis, Performance Plus Motor Oil, Win Rewards, everybody that supports them as well. Really, really fun racing tonight. Again, just glad I could show up and put on a good show.
Well, congratulations again on the win this evening, Zach, and as well, congratulations on all your accomplishments for 2019. It's been a ton of fun to watch, and new year around the corner, so looking forward to seeing what's next. We'll catch you soon.
Thanks, Evan. You guys have a good night.
The race winner tonight from Five Flags Speedway and the iRacing Winter Derby, Zach Novak, comes out on top with a victory here this evening. Continuing on down the line to our next driver in line, Carson Hosvar finishes in P2. Trackside with him is Nolan.
Thank you, Evan. And so Carson Hosvar, you started off in pole position. Unfortunately, had to settle for second place tonight, but you were, of course, so dominant in the time you spent up front of the field, controlled the restarts perfectly, always pulled big gaps over the rest of the field. Excuse me. Where do you think things kind of started to slow down for you in the race and ended up resulting in your second place finish tonight?
I think the day to night transition was really the big key. I didn't make any adjustments throughout the race just because it was already really good, and I just didn't really want to mess with it and stuff. And it's just a setup I have for the Derby that's in the day. So, but no, I think really what cost me a ton was losing that track position on pit road. I just had a really bad stop and went from first to sixth. And I mean, me, Parker, and Novak were all really close in speed. And it was just whoever was able to capitalize on restarts and get out front. And that's what you saw early. If I got to get a restart, I would just manage that gap. And but yeah, Zach pretty much had me covered a little bit. He was just a little bit better long run, but I felt like I was a little bit better than Parker there. I just didn't have the track position to try to hold him off.
Yeah, speaking of which, you did have quite a few battles with Parker Retzlaff, especially off of the restarts. We saw both of you chopping each other's noses off quite a few times off on the restarts, and you got to be really decisive when you make those maneuvers. What kind of goes through your heads, especially with the restarts, when you know that you have to make such decisive maneuvers to make up spots at a track like this?
You just got to be aggressive as possible. I mean, everybody in the top five pretty much knows what they're doing, so I was really confident in chopping Parker's nose off. I mean, we made contact, and I didn't think twice about it. I knew we'd both hang on to it. We would keep racing, and I knew Dallas was really good too early, and when I fell back to six, I'd put him 3 wide right on the restart, just knowing we were so even, and I just had to capitalize and try to get that track position as soon as possible. But no, it was a really fun race, and obviously we want to win the race, but we qualified pole and had the fastest lap of the race, led the most laps, and just had a P2 finish.
And then before we let you go and celebrate with your second place finish here tonight, is there any sponsor you'd like to shout out? Who gets it done for that number 4 machine?
No virtual sponsor or anything, but I gotta thank Connor Okresic. We're both heading to the real Derby. I leave tomorrow and test Sunday, but we were both all on pretty much all day, just working on setups and stuff, just talking about the real Derby. And I just got to thank iRacing for putting this deal on. It's really cool for them to finally put together, a virtual snowball Derby. So that's really cool for being able to me and Okresic and all these guys to come race with the sim racers and have a good time here.
Thank you, Carson, for taking the time to join us here today in the RaceSpot TV booth. And that was your second place finisher, ladies and gentlemen, Carson Hosvar.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Continue on down the pit lane here, trackside with the driver who comes home in a 5th position this evening, and the driver of the number 5 machine, Brian LaPrade, with a good result in this one, and finishing exactly where he started is nowhere near the tail of the tape as we're trackside with him now. Brian, congratulations, top 5 finish in this race, which includes you in the group of some of the best drivers on the sim on these short tracks participating tonight. How you feel?
I feel pretty confident. That was a really fun race. I just want to give a big shout out to Jimmy Mullis and happy birthday for building that car. It was a really solid piece. I got used up there towards the end, damaged the car a little bit. It started getting a little tight off the corners. But other than that, it was a really fun race. I enjoyed it a lot.
Obviously, long one, 300 laps, a lot of restarts, and ironically enough, we thought it was going to be stop and start at the end, because outside of 50 to go or so, you were getting very short runs, and all of a sudden it was a long green flag run to the end, one of the long runs we had seen. How did you pace yourself through this race? I know pit stops kind of became more plentiful around that midway point, and then everybody looked like they wanted to go for track position late, not pitting again.
Yeah, so the beginning, I actually got caught up in an incident, I think lap 2 or 3 with Connor. Accidentally hit the bump going into 3. Didn't mean to at all, just trying to keep the car low, and the car slammed the track and went up the track into Connor there, and didn't mean to. But at the beginning, you obviously just want to play it safe. It's 300 laps, long race. You don't want to get aggressive with it. But mid-race, it just slowly started picking up. Getting a little worried about pit stops. Didn't know if anyone's going to make any pit strategies, try and get some track position, get caught up in the back. It was a little tough to pass. And then, at the end, it was just everybody trying to go for anything. But it was fun. That short track race, and it was great.
Obviously, you do a special event like this. One thing that we were talking about on the broadcast is that, with most of these special events, it's kind of unique because you don't really know a lot of the other drivers that you're driving around like you would in a series or not. But it seems like a lot of familiar faces in this one. Did you enjoy yourself out there tonight?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It was fun. Raced a lot around familiar names, like Roger Caruth and Carson Hocevar, Zach Novak, Parker Retzlaff, all of them, they know what they're doing. They're very clean racers. Carson's obviously racing in the real-life Snowball Derby, so good luck to him in that. This iRacing is probably going to give him a lot of practice and help towards the real-life thing. So I think it's a good thing to use this and practice like Carson is in real life.
2019 rounding down to a close with this, the final special event on the iRacing calendar. What are going to be your plans for 2020?
Just keep doing my thing. We got the off season here. Just I stream a lot on Twitch. Just enjoy doing that, interacting with a lot of people. Try giving tips and whatnot. Definitely gonna try and make a run for Peak or Pro for Road to Pro coming up here in March, I think. So that'll be fun. That's my main focus right now. I think I'm, too old this year for Ignite, so no Ignite this year, so we'll just focus on Road to Pro and making our way up.
I'll tell you what, congratulations on the good finish tonight, Brian, and we look forward to seeing you down the road. Congrats on a long season of action, and hopefully we'll catch you soon.
Thank you. Just want to thank my sponsor, Shady Art Graphics and Ledford Billiard Supplies, for letting me do this. Appreciate it.
You got a lot of TV time on that number 5 machine tonight. That's your P5 finisher, Brian LaPrade, who comes home with a good result tonight at Five Flags. Big thanks to everybody who stopped by post-race to chat, to Zach and Carson and Brian, 1st, 2nd, and 5th in this iRacing Winter Derby. And we can add one more to the list. Parker Retzlaff, 3rd place finisher, trackside. I think Nolan's got him.
And thank you once again, Evan and Parker Retzlaff. A very, very intense race for you. Started down in 15th place, right in the middle of the Hornet's Nest. Managed to come away, though, with a 3rd place finish. How do you feel about that result?
I felt really good. I was not confident at all coming into the race. I didn't think I had any speed at all. I thought I was going to run about 15th all race, but it came all around and I was actually pretty decent.
And with the biggest action we saw on track on some of these restarts was between you and Carson Hocevar, our 2nd place finisher today. And you had quite a few close calls on the restarts. Hocevar chopped your nose a couple times, then you decided, I'm going to go and chop his nose as well. When you go through these restarts, Hocevar was mentioning that you got to just be as aggressive as you can, especially off of these race restarts. Would you second that?
Yeah, I would agree. If you're not too aggressive, if you're just really conservative, you just get run over and you just have to try and get in front of everybody.
And in your run from 15th place up to that impressive third place finish, of course, one of our highest movers of the day, where would you say some of your strong points came in this race? Of course, never managed to quite make it up to the lead, but certainly was definitely challenging for it a couple of times.
Yeah, it was. I just didn't have enough long run speed to compete with Novak. He was just a little bit better than both me and Carson on the long run. But if I would have, I almost had the lead, and then the one guy stayed out, and it kind of messed up me up. But we regrouped, and we're pretty decent.
And then before we let you go and take our final podium spot of the night, is there anybody that you'd like to shout out for us today? Any sponsors or people that you'd like to just give thanks to tonight?
No, just all my people that I race with, like Jacob Hefner and everybody that I race with every week.
And that was your third place finisher, Parker Retzlaff, moving up from 15th, 12 spots to a very impressive third place to take your final podium position here in the iRacing Winter Snowball Derby.
So add him to the name of to the list of names, I guess. Thank them for giving us some time post-race. Long night of action tonight at Five Flags Speedway. So credit to them for sticking around and chatting. And also big thanks to all of you for tuning in and being a part of this event with us. As that wraps it up, Nolan, a night of a lot of exciting action. We said it right off of the bat that these are very big names in this race, and they did not disappoint. So many times on the restart, slicing inside, outside, 3 wide, contact, and hanging on to it. The guys up front showed why they are some of the best, and that's what makes this event so much fun. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're on the sim and you want to race in the Winter Derby, 3 more splits this week, 8 a.m. tomorrow morning Eastern Time, 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time as well, and then 9 a.m. on Sunday. That, again, also Eastern Time to compete, but they kicked off the weekend in very good fashion.
They certainly did. This is definitely a really exciting racing event to be a part of. It's always a pleasure, no doubt, for everybody involved to be able to get in and race with some of the better drivers up here on the service. And Novak, of course, a fantastic win, made up 11 spots, started 12th, finished first. Carson Hosvar, unfortunately, could not hang on in the pits and finished down in second. But Retzlaff, of course, like we just said, 12 spots, one of your biggest moves of the day, finished up with the final podium spot. So all around a good run for all 3 of your drivers.
And that'll do it for us here tonight from Pensacola, Florida. I encourage you to join us online. Go to racespot.tv. Find out you could catch us next time right here on the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, on behalf of the entire team behind the scenes and for your broadcast crew tonight, for our producer downstairs, Randy Chennet, Fidel Rempel, and myself, Evan Pasoko, want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Zach Novak, the 2019 iRacing Winter Derby champion. We'll catch you next time. Until then, good night from Five Flags.